Good afternoon. I'd like to call the April 18th meeting of the Johnson County Community College Board of Trustees to order. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our agenda is a little bit different tonight in that we have the first item as our budget workshop. This is a time when staff will present to the Board of Trustees the proposed budget for the upcoming year. This is a workshop and we'll hear information and answer questions with the staff. I would remind the board that we're scheduled to vote on a management budget in May, and then following that, and that allows the staff to be prepared to make buying decisions and so on over the summertime. That budget will be loaded, I believe it's in June, and then in August we will have a budget hearing and we'll vote on our legal budget, I think, Rachel. So with that, Dr. Larson, I don't know if you have any introductions first, but let's move into the budget workshop. We have three trustees that are in transit and will be here momentarily.
Thank you, Dr. Cook. For some of us, this is the highlight of a year that begins in September when we begin the budget process. This is the culmination of a lot of hard work on many people's parts. We often talk about having a fairly decentralized budget process here. We have over 120 budget administrators who oversee, I think, over 400 cost centers or departments at the budget. Work very hard, and it takes a lot of communication and cooperation throughout the year. We thank the board for your guidance. The fact that you approve budget guidelines to set the framework for all of us as we work internally is very important, and the fact that you do it early in the process for us is key, so thank you for that. I want to acknowledge the very hard work of Chandra Russell, our budget analyst here at the college. We couldn't do it without you, Chandra. And also, of course, the great leadership of our CFO, Rachel Lears. And with that, I will turn the presentation over to Rachel to take us through first an overview, summary presentation, and then she'll take us through some of the key pages from this document. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, so as Barbara mentioned, I'd like to start this afternoon by going through a PowerPoint presentation that's going to be very similar to the one that was presented to the Management Committee earlier this month. And then from there, we'll take some time to walk through many of the details that are included in the hard copy of the workbook that was at your table and will also be on the college's website after tomorrow. So just jumping right in here, I'd like to start off with just a summary presentation of the proposed budget for next year, fiscal 20. It's shown in this slide in comparison to the adopted budget for the current year, 2019. This budget has been based on the preliminary guidelines that were approved by the Board of Trustees back in December. However, we have adjusted those guidelines for a couple of items. We have adjusted the property tax revenue to include an increase in assessed valuation that is higher than we estimated back in December. The preliminary guidelines estimated that assessed valuation would grow by 4% for next year. And when we met with the county appraiser staff last month in March, we found out that that number was actually going to be about 5.75%. So we've adjusted the budget to reflect that, and that's about an additional $1.6 million of additional revenue in the college's general fund for next year. Similarly, our expenses have also been adjusted since December. Again, last month at the board meeting, a voluntary retirement benefit for full-time employees was approved. And so we have a one-time expense item associated with that, and that's about $5.8 million, and that's been included in the salary and benefit line in this presentation. Our capital allocation, that $19 million there, also includes a one-time planned use of reserves in the amount of $15 million to conclude the facility master plan. So again, when you're looking at that total expense budget of $173 million, keep in mind that $20 million of that is to non-recurring, one-time planned uses of reserves for those two specific projects. So in total, we would have a use of reserves net of about $13 million next year if the budget were to be completely spent. Does that make sense? Okay. From there, getting into some details on our revenues. This pie chart represents sources of revenue in the college's general fund for next year. So again, with that adjustment that we've made to the property tax revenue, we're now at about 66% of the budget from ad valorem property taxes. And that's going to be about 1% higher than this year, which was around 65%. 18% of our budget is generated by tuition and fee revenue, 14% from our state funding, and about 2% of our revenue comes from investment income on our reserves. A few more details about the property tax revenue. Again, I mentioned we had made the adjustment in the assessed valuation, the increase from 4% planned up to 5.75%. The mill levy recommendation remains flat after a quarter mill reduction in this current year. The recommendation for next year is currently to leave that in place. That's primarily driven by the fact that we don't expect for property values to continue to go up by 5 or 6 or 7% as they have in recent years. And also, there's just a lot of uncertainty that remains about what's been referred to as the dark store theory, or the method for valuing commercial properties. We hope to hear more about that later in the summer, when a couple of large cases that are that continue to be under appeal will hopefully be resolved. But for the time being, there is still quite a bit of just information that we don't have regarding those property taxes from those properties. I believe last month, Trustee Musil, at the March board meeting, you had requested a specific analysis on the mill levy rollback potential for basically taking us back to the original property tax revenue projection that we had when we assumed a 4% increase in assessed valuation. So that math has been done on this next slide. And there's a lot of numbers on here. What it basically boils down to is that with that additional 1.75% in assessed valuation growth, that basically equates to 0.15 mils. So in order to get back down to $103 million of revenue in the general fund, $109 million in total, we would have a mill levy reduction of 0.15, which is about $1.6 million, excuse me. Okay. Additional revenue information, tuition and fee revenue of $29 million for next year. That should be more than we receive in the current year because, of course, we have adopted price increases for next year. However, our budgeted revenue for next year is less than the current year budget because of our continued decline in credit hours. What that basically means is we over budgeted credit hours in the current year. We budgeted about 320,000 student credit hours. That should have been about 300,000. So that's going to change or lower the budget for tuition revenue for next year. Our state funding, the budget will be $22.5 million, which assumes that our funding levels would remain consistent with where they currently are. With regard to expenses, again, we have about $173 million in total expenses planned for next year in the general fund of the college. Salaries and benefits are the primary components of our expense structure. That makes up about 71% of our total cost. Our current operating budgets are about 17%, excuse me, of the total. Those are utilities and licenses and fees, travel, supplies, things like that. We have a capital allocation, again, of $19 million, which is about 11%, and a little bit of debt service, principal and interest in the general fund. That's 1% of the budget, about $2 million. With regard to salary and benefits, again, that's the largest component, the largest individual line item in the budget. For next year, we have a 3% placeholder included for an average salary increase, and that's pursuant to the master agreement that's in place with the Faculty Association. We don't have an increase in the number of positions at the college. We currently have about 910 budgeted full-time positions, so we're not looking to increase the number of positions there. However, as we do from time to time, we will certainly have some reallocations between departments or programs based upon need and kind of the program review and assessment that happens from year to year. Next year will be the first time that we adopt a vacancy factor, and this is really kind of a budgeting best practice that a lot of institutions use to try to account for the fact that all of your positions aren't full all of the time. We always have kind of natural attrition, people come and go. And so to help account for the fact that, again, all the positions aren't full all 12 months of the year, we're going to adopt a vacancy factor of 1%, which basically means we'll put in a negative amount in order to try to bring the budget for salary and benefit costs more in line with what we actually plan to expend. I mentioned the one-time accrual for the new voluntary retirement benefit. And then we also have some benefit cost increases related to our medical plan. I think we had about a 3.8% increase on the medical plan renewal. And then any time that salaries increase, of course, that means that the employer's portion of the payroll taxes and 403B plan contributions would increase as well. This is just kind of a look at the numbers associated with all of those things. If you were to do kind of an itemization of, okay, how much is the salary part, how much is the benefit part, what does that look like? Because we're talking about an 8% increase there. That's kind of how that $9 million breaks out between those individual line items. Our operating budgets for next year, as Barbara mentioned, are recommended by the budget administrators around campus, and so we have a lot of people that are involved in this budget effort. We do require that they provide justification for every line item that's submitted, so requests for supplies or travel are justified, of course, by their planned use. And in total, our operating budgets are only expected to increase by about 1.3% over this year's budget, which is very low, and most of those, in fact, can be attributed to some of the specific priorities that I've tried to list on these coming slides as they kind of connect as well to the strategic plan, the strategic goals and priorities of the college. So just a few examples here of some new funding requests that we did receive from budget administrators for next year. A new faculty chair development program connected to the new faculty chair model. We're going to, for the first time, set aside some matching funds in the college's general fund in order to enable us to pursue grant opportunities more quickly without having to perhaps wait until the next budget cycle to have some dollars set aside to be able to attend to those potential needs quicker. Of course, we'll have a full year of operating costs for the new Fine Arts and Design Studios and career and technical education buildings. Those costs are primarily related to housekeeping contracts and utilities. And then we'll be engaging on a new community perception survey, and that's the first time in a number of years that we have done that. That will be led by our Office of Institutional Research. A few additional funding requests for next year, just again, some new items and how they connect to the strategic priorities. 50th anniversary events, of course, we'll continue to celebrate those as we move throughout 2019 and into fiscal 2020. Staff support, that includes, again, I mentioned earlier, sometimes we do reallocate budgeted positions. This would be one example of reallocating a previously budgeted position to provide full-time staff support to address food insecurity and other potential student barriers, rather than having other staff members work to attend to those issues in addition to their full-time duties. And then the final item on this slide that I would mention is the new UPass program, which I think will be a management committee recommendation, and we'll get to that later in the meeting and have a more detailed report about it. But that's about a $25,000 item, actually in the student activity fund, not in the general fund, but it relates to potential for a new contract with the Kansas City Area Transportation Authority to provide transportation assistance for students and faculty and staff. Moving into our capital budgets for next year, every year we set aside dollars for new and also replacement funding for equipment, technology, classroom and office painting and carpeting. That's about $3 million of our total capital allocation. We have $1 million budgeted for active learning classrooms, and this is the fourth year of that initiative to refresh classroom learning spaces, new equipment and technology provided in those spaces. We're able to attend to about 5 or 6 rooms per year with those dollars. And then, as I mentioned at the beginning, we do have our final allocation for facility master plan projects, and that's a $15 million total, and this is really the fourth and final year of contributions from general fund reserves for the facility master plan. If you think back to that $110 million pie chart from a couple of years ago that listed all of the projects that we were going to attend to in the master plan and the funding sources, and we had $50 million from bonds, and we had capital campaign from the foundation, and we had a contribution from reserves. This really completes the reserve portion of that funding. Debt service, I mentioned this previously. We do have a little under $2 million of scheduled principal and interest payments, again, on the funds that were borrowed last year or in 2017 to get started on the master plan projects. Each year when we are putting the budget together, of course, we do look at our reserve projections and look at the board's policy for the minimum level of reserves. And of course, we have recently updated that policy such that the requirement is currently that at the minimum point, the low point in the fiscal year, reserves would still be at least 25% of the operating budget. And so what this slide tells us is that even with those 2 big planned uses of reserves for the master plan projects and the retirement benefit accrual, we would still be at about 28% of the budget for reserves in cash at the low point in the year, which is typically December 31st. Of course, there are a lot of other factors that are included in the budget in those years, 21 to 24. But as of this point in time, this indicates that even with those planned uses of reserves, again, we would still be within the policy, the reserve minimum policy. I wanted to talk a little bit about the capital outlay fund budget as well. Of course, we have a $500,000 dedicated to the capital outlay fund. That generates about $6 million a year in tax revenue for the capital outlay fund. Next year, our campus services staff have worked to prioritize projects for those dollars. That would include things like the HVAC and lighting and masonry that we do some of every year. As well as some new items, including campus signage. Of course, we have some new buildings, and we're looking to refresh our signage around campus, attending to the gym lobby, and adding solar rooftops on 2 additional buildings next year, which I believe would bring our total to 9 buildings on campus that would then have solar rooftops. We will have debt service in the capital outlay fund. This will be the 4th year of the 5-year maturity of the funds that we borrowed back in 2016 to attend to what we've referred to as the turnkey project for campus infrastructure repairs. And then we have some capital allocations as well in the capital outlay fund for the ATB renovation and the resource center consolidation on the first floor of the library, those 2 projects that were part of the master plan. So we will be spending down capital outlay fund reserves next year. And so you can see in 2019 and 20 that the reserve balance there would get down to about $2.5 million if, again, we expend every dollar of that budget that is planned. And then assuming that in 2021, when the capital outlay mill resolution would be renewed, if that were to happen, and then this estimates assessed valuation goes up by 3% a year, then you can see the fund balance replenish from there. Okay, so before we go into the workbook, just again, Trustee Cook, you mentioned this a little bit earlier in your comments. The remaining budget timeline is such that the board would vote next month on the management budget. Then in July, we would publish our notice of public hearing, have the hearing in August, and then officially the mill levy is set in October when the final abstract of taxes is prepared. Any questions on that before we move into the workbook?
Rachel, on the, two things. On the item where we had funds appropriated for grant applications, and I've
Yes.
asked this before, I think we have paid attention to when a grant runs out and the program is really good and we want to continue it, that we have budgeted accordingly to make sure that we can continue with that grant program. Are we okay with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then secondly, you'd made the comment on the credit hours, that we had budgeted 325,000 credit hours this year and 300,000 next year, and you made the comment we over budgeted the hours. Was that an anticipated number and enrollments didn't come through, or was there something else going on?
Yeah, it was just based on the FY17 actual at the time. We didn't have the FY18 year completed, and so it was lower than estimated. 18 was, and then 19 was also from there. And I think that makes more sense maybe when we get into the workbook and look at that
Okay.
chart over time.
So you feel
That
better about the 300,000 this year than
Yes.
325 in the past? Okay. Any other questions at this point? Proceed.
Okay,
Thanks, Rachel.
all right, bear with me, I have to change documents here. Okay. All right, so again, in your workbook, I think I'd like to start on what is page 6, which I mentioned earlier. These were the preliminary guidelines that were approved in December. Page 8 then shows the details of the changes that we have made since then. So again, we have updated the assessed valuation estimated increase to the actual number and adjusted the credit hour enrollment there in item number 3. So I just wanted to call that to your attention as well. And again, we'll talk about this more as we move through the rest of the slides. From there, I wanted to skip forward to page 15, which is, again, the general fund of the college, our revenues by source. We talked about in the pie chart representation earlier the FY20 amounts. This chart takes us back 10 years, and again, I think it's just helpful to look back at the change over time, specifically to look at the increase in the percentage of our revenue from ad valorem property taxes, how that's grown from 56% of the total to 66% over time, and in dollars, how that revenue has grown from about $120 million to nearly $160, and most of that increase, again, is the dollars in that ad valorem property tax category. The next page has a chart on assessed valuation and mill levy, and again, this goes back for 10 years. I talked earlier about the increases that we have experienced over the past 6 or 7 years. We've had a positive change in property valuations in each of those years, some 5, 6, and 7% annually. You can see that in the column in the middle of the page. And then again, the mill change over here on the side. So probably most importantly, just noting that the 3/4 mill increase was done back in FY14, followed by a 1/10 of a mill reduction the following year in 15, and again, the 1/4 mill reduction that we had this current year in FY19. The proposed flat levy amount is currently included on this chart. From there, I would like to, well, let's just go to the next page. Page 17, we have a historical analysis of what would be property owner of a parcel at College in Quivira. This would be a look at the total levies that would be in effect for that residence. And just, again, to point out that the college's portion of their total levy has really remained flat, very consistent at about 8% of the total amount over the past 10 years. The school and state and county parks and rec levies are listed on this page as well. On page 18, we have a look at the average appraised value of a home in Johnson County, increasing from $299,000 to $317,000 from 2018 to 2019. So again, if the college's levy was to remain flat, that would be a change of about $19, an increase of about $19, which is, I think, 6% higher for an average homeowner paying to the college for next year. Page 19 looks at property tax revenue in all funds. Again, I've talked a lot just about the college general fund so far. Just wanted to remind everyone of the special assessments fund and of course the capital outlay fund, and that puts our total ad valorem tax revenue at about $110 million budgeted for next year in FY20. The next slide, I think Trustee Cook may do a better job than I did at explaining the credit hour enrollment. This goes back to 2001 and shows our student credit hours annually over that period of time. The peak year here on this chart was in 2011, 379,000 credit hours. You can see that in 2017, again, which this current budget was based on 328, that decreased to 319, and then the budget for 322 this year was too high. And so having the budget at 302 for next year is much more in line with what we expect to receive. Graphical presentation of that information at the bottom of the page. Next, we have a look at our credit hour enrollment percentages by residency and also the tuition revenue by residency. So this tells us, this is for FY18, it's very similar to what we've shown previously for FY17. 73% of our students last academic year were Johnson County residents. 17% of those from other Kansas counties, 4% out of state and international, and 6% from the metro, utilizing the metro rate, bordering counties in Missouri. The revenue shakes out a little bit differently, of course, because of the differential in the tuition pricing. Okay. On page 22, tuition and fee analysis. Again, looking at our total cost, well, our cost for 30 credit hours, I guess, for the current year versus next year, with the tuition increases of $1, $2, and $3 based on residency. And then for comparative purposes, the rates at KU, K-State, and Metropolitan Community College in Missouri, which since I listed their FY19 rates in the book, but have their FY20 rates have been published since then, and just as an FYI, those are increasing by $4 in district, $7 out of district, and $9 out of state. Okay, the next slides I won't spend a lot of time on because we've looked at these quite a bit in the past. This shows the difference between the tuition and the mandatory fees over time. This particular table is for Johnson County residents, and again, we have the $1 increase in place moving into next year. Kansas residents, those rates will go up by $2 next year for folks living in the state but not Johnson County residents. Out-of-state and international rates will go up by $3 per credit hour. And then our metro rate on page 26, we've had that for 4 years now. This will be the first increase for the metro rate. It'll be moving up by $3 per credit hour from 135 to 138. Page 27 is our required student fees. We refer to these as our mandatory student fees. This is that $16 that you see out of the $93. These haven't increased for, I believe, 7 academic years. Just as a reminder, none of this revenue goes into the general fund. These are funds that are specific to student activities, scholarships, debt reduction, parking and road maintenance, and then, of course, our sustainability fee goes into the Sustainability Initiatives Fund. Course fees are listed on page 28. None of those are increasing for next year. Again, those primarily are in the areas of floral and horticulture, private music lessons, and then railroad courses. The next few pages, we get this information from the Board of Regents website. These are the tuition and fee rates for all of the community colleges throughout the state of Kansas. You can see those on the next 2 pages. And then we've added the high-low presentation on page 31. Again, the green line here representing JCCC at $93 per credit hour, with Dodge City and Coffeyville being the 2 institutions with a lower per credit hour price than ours. On page 32, we have included information from an annual survey that's published by the College Board. This is demonstrating the average public 2-year tuition cost by state. It's got 5 years of data. And Kansas ranks down here towards the very bottom among the most affordable nationwide in total cost for a 2-year public institution. And again, if you look at this chart closely, you can see this 14%. That is the change from FY15 to FY19. So whereas it's 14% for the state of Kansas, it would only, if we were just looking at JCCC, that number would only be 5.7%. We've increased from $88 to $93 over that same period of time. So that would put the college anyway lower than almost any state listed on this report. And then the last bit I have about revenue is on page 33. This information, again, is available on the Board of Regents website. This just details the tiered and non-tiered credit hour funding for all of the community and technical colleges for the current year and also for last year, FY18. Our allotment did go up slightly. If you'll recall, the 4% cut that we had in FY17 was partially reinstated this year. We got about 2.75 of the 4% back. And that was about $570,000. Okay. From there, moving on into expenses. Again, we've looked at the pie chart in the other presentation, but I wanted to look at page 37 again because it goes back for 10 fiscal years, and I think it does a nice job of illustrating how really our total expenses, our total cost has really held pretty flat, pretty stable from FY18 to FY11 to 17, excuse me, and then started to increase over the past 2 years as we've specifically allocated more dollars for capital for the facilities master plan. Again, $15 million planned for 20, $7 million in 19, $3 million in 18, and I believe $2 million in 17. So that really accounts for most of the increase in total expenditures over that period of time. I guess I would stop there. From there are a lot of details in the book. We have budgets for all of our other funds. We have the auxiliary fund, which is primarily our dining and bookstore operations. We have our adult supplementary education fund, which is our continuing education unit, motorcycle and truck driving, all of those other funds that are required by statute that we account for separately. We have detail in the book of every departmental operating budget and all of the capital requests as well. So rather than trying to talk about each one of those individually, I guess I would pause and see if there are any questions at this point.
Would you refer questions topically or by trustee?
However you want to do it.
Let's do it by trustee, I think, Mike, and if we move around, that's okay. Paul, what questions do you have regarding that?
Not at this time.
Okay. Angelina?
Oh, I need to come back to me.
I'm sorry?
Can you skip me for a second?
Okay. Greg?
I've got more comments than questions probably because I think Rachel's already answered some of my comments or my questions, but are you talking about, she's going through the specific line item issues. I have no questions on the line items in that part of the budget book.
Make your comments or questions. Go ahead. Do you have any that you want to talk about?
Are these wrap-up kind of summary of the whole budget process?
Maybe there'll be questions first, then we'll come back
Okay.
to our wrap-up. David?
That's fine.
Lee, questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess probably not fair to ask Rachel, but if enrollment's going to be down 6%, is that right?
That's really a two-year total. It's between 2 and 3 annually. Again, what we've got for next year is kind of a 2-year catch-up,
We were guessing at 2?
2 to 3.
right? Does it make sense to cut the mill so much if we're going to have tuition down so much? Well, I'm just the guy asking the question.
Good question.
It's a fair question.
I don't
Excuse me.
hear anything about cutting the mill. I mean, I hear the recommendation is staying flat.
That's the recommendation that's included
Right.
currently.
What does a 1% decline amount to?
A 1% decline in
Decline in
enrollment?
enrollment, yeah.
Let's see, so that's, I don't know, 3,000, no, wait,
Three.
probably.
It's about 300,000.
$300,000.
Little over
300,000 would be 10%, 1% would be very small.
Oh, 10% would be 3 million.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
My math isn't very good.
$300,000.
That's not fair. 300,000.
Yes.
I think, Lee, back to your point, I think staff recommendations keep it flat, but with the assessed valuation being higher than what we budgeted, then the discussion is, should we reduce the mill levy accordingly because we'll have excess revenue with the increased assessed valuation? And I believe Management Committee talked a little bit about that, so we may want to come back to that a little bit. But that's a good point. Do you have any other questions or comments at this time?
I got a lot, but not many I think I want to make public at this point.
Okay. Nancy?
I just wanted to ask one question about how we arrived at the 4%. Remind me how we got the 4% when we were.
I think it was just a conservative estimate at the time, knowing that or believing that we probably wouldn't be at 6 or 7 again. It was just kind of a very conservative preliminary estimate. We didn't have any firm information until we met in March.
And that'll be the same process next year,
Yes.
right?
That's really the best that we
Right.
have at the time.
Okay. And that comes from the appraiser?
March information does. The preliminary estimates are just developed by staff.
Thank you.
The credit hour issue is always an interesting one in that, and I think all of us understand that when the economy does well, there's a tendency for our enrollments to be down because everybody is working. And I think, Dr. Sopcich, at the Lenexa Chamber yesterday, you made that comment. County unemployment is probably, around 3%? I'm guessing. Is it 2.8, 3.2 unemployment in Johnson County? So as unemployment drops and people are working, then we get impacted negatively with enrollment, at least from the age bracket that we're seeing the greatest decline in, and as I understand it, that's kind of north of 25 or 26. When the economy is bad and people need to retool, then that's when we see a resurgence in enrollment in that age bracket at least. So it's kind of a result of being in a really strong economy right now. Angelina.
Mr. Chairman, when you were just explaining the flat versus the rollback to Trustee Cross, that really confused me. So Dr. Larson, last board meeting, you mentioned the appraisal came back at 6.76, and that you're going to budget on a safety net basically about 5.75.
That's right.
Tonight, I heard Rachel said that the appraisal came back at 5.75. So what is the actual appraisal rate?
The actual appraisal is, as I said, about 6.76.
Appraised
right.
value is higher than assessed
Higher.
value. You have to
Right.
apply the residential and
appeals.
commercial assessment rates to get down to an assessed
I mean,
value.
1%
So the
appeals
5.75 is what we're
pretty generous.
using.
I'm sorry?
5.75 is based on our historical look at the difference between what we actually receive
Right.
and the published appraised value.
Right.
So we're very comfortable with the 5.75 based on appeals,
Right.
et cetera.
Okay, and then Trustee Musil had mentioned he was just curious about what the 4% would look like, and that's what this is. So when you say the mill is you're recommending the mill flat, what percentage are you talking about?
5.75% increase in assessed valuation.
Okay,
And the mill levy the levy amount would remain flat. 9.266 mils
But-
is the current levy.
If I may, Mr. Chair, we would get more money if assessments and appraisals go up.
Correct.
Yes. Let me go back to that slide with the math on it, excuse me here. So our preliminary budget, and I'm sorry that this is so small, this is $103.6 million in the general fund. Okay? That was the preliminary budget based on 4%. We updated it to 5.75 and it went up to 105.2. So the question was, what would it take to get back to 103.6? And that's what I've done here. I give or take $60,000. I wish I knew how to make this a little bit bigger. Here, hold on.
Control plus.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Which is still, even if we're at 103.5, that's still $4 million than we got last year. $4 million more than we got last year. Does that make sense?
But the mill would be, are you talking about the gray column right now?
Yes.
So, but the mill would be 9.116?
Yes,
So that is a
correct.
rollback?
You're right. That's the gray.
Okay, that's what I was trying to figure out.
Yeah.
So you're recommending the middle column at 9.266? That's
Yes.
flat?
the
That's
mi-
what you're
This
saying
is the
flat.
recommended in the middle, and the what if is on the right.
Okay.
Yep.
Mr. Musil, do you have any?
Well, I don't know when, if ever, you want to hear from me. But
This would be a good time.
I think this is a good time.
Do we have a choice?
No, you don't. Lee, you got to hear from me. My point that I made in March, that I will make here in April, and I will make in May, and I'll make in August, absent some change in the circumstances, is that if we assume a 4% assessed valuation, appraised valuation increase, we get $4 million more dollars from property taxpayers this year, or in 1920 than we did in 1819.
Yes.
If we assume a 5.75% appraised value increase, then we'll get $5.6 million. So we have an additional $1.6 million even above what we projected in December.
Correct.
And if the appeals and other issues that don't take the 6.76 actual total down to 5.75, we will get even more money from property taxpayers. Now, there's a possibility we could get less, it could drop below 5.75. Over the last, if we count fiscal year 1920 as the fifth of 5 fiscal years, in that period of time, we will have increased our general ad valorem tax revenues from 85 million to 105 million, 23% over 5 years. The amount that is, of our budget that is funded by taxpayers will have gone from 60 to 66%. Every homeowner, every business person, every consumer in Johnson County is paying more because of the property tax levies, not just for Johnson County Community College, but for the library and for the county and for the city and for the school districts. I've expressed my concerns before. I will express them here briefly today that I believe in December, staff brought us a proposal that they thought would adequately fund this college for 1920, for fiscal year 20, at 4% increased value. And just as I asserted last year, when we get appraised values that are more than that, more than we projected that we needed in the previous December, which I understand were preliminary and were projections, I don't think we should accept that additional money, the additional $1.6 million over an additional new $4 million without some kind of compelling rationale for that. The rationale, Rachel, I heard you state, and I think has been stated before, is that we expect slower increases in assessed value going forward. Well, I think there's always a yin and a yang to that, but we probably can't expect 5, 6, and 7, and 8% increases to continue. But during that period of time, we have done very well in our reserves. And our reserves over the next 5 fiscal years, according to the projections, will go from $48 million in 2019-20 to $74 million in 23-24 as of the low point of the year. Now, I know our regular budget's going up, so that the 25% level goes up as well. But two things I confirmed with Rachel is that if we reduce the mill levy by 0.15, so we only take what we said we were going to take last December, we do not fall below 25% in reserves in any of the either fiscal year 20 or the out years,
Correct.
based on our preliminary pro forma. We don't drop out of the ideal range in any of the financial ratios.
Correct. The CFI
So-
ratio.
And to take extra money because of the dark store theory or some other calamitous economic event, now I don't think is necessary. We can respond to that if and when it happens. So as we move forward, I will continue to advocate that we only take an additional $4 million from property taxpayers instead of $5.6 million for fiscal year 19-20.
Trustee Cross?
Yeah, I thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank Trustee Musil for his comments. I don't quite know what to do with this issue and really want to work to adhere to the nonpartisan principles we were all elected to uphold. So if the economy is good now and attendance is down now, I mean, would we rather raise the mill when unemployment is worse? I don't understand. I mean, and to say that there's been no significant or compelling reason offered and putting up with all due respect, a fake straw man. I don't know that dark store theories come out of my mouth except asking what is it. So I haven't offered dark store theory. No one here that I'm aware of has offered dark store theory as a possible rationale, perhaps staff.
Well, Rachel just said it a little bit ago, and whether it's right or wrong, but it has been offered.
Fair enough. I apologize, Rachel. No, I'm not throwing Rachel under the bus. But I'm just saying, it is, with all due respect, just a disagreement we have. Like, I would rather keep the money and reinvest in the college for what is, by all appearances, if you listen to Bloomberg or watch Bloomberg every day, they're worried about the downturn. Everybody's waiting for a downturn. This has been a bubble popping. I mean, these are famous last words in September of 1929. Like, it's been good for so long, it's going to keep good. Well, great, but with all due respect, some of us just do disagree and think that we should keep the money and reinvest in the college, reinvest in our students, reinvest in the faculty. That's all.
I appreciate the disagreement. I think it's good to have the discussion. And I'm willing to take an additional $4 million from taxpayers because I think we contribute to the growth of the college. The disagreement we have is whether that extra $1.6 million ought to be left in their pockets or brought to you.
And this is no issue with you, you know, with state funding down, and that's a conundrum, and we're in a difficult spot to be able to argue or go either which way, but that's an elephant in the room that we never really address, right? And so our taxpayers are stuck with an increasing burden. And I hear you, like, their burden has gone up, and that's to be paid attention to. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
David, do you have any comments?
I just think, I agree with Trustee Musil. We mentioned that at least I mentioned that at the end of the management meeting when this discussion came about. My colleagues, it appeared to me my colleagues on the management committee agreed with that comment, or supported that comment. I think, Trustee Cross, to your comment, I think this board has shown the courage over the last, since I've been here, 7 years now, to do what we need to do to protect the college, the interest of the college. So if in the future there are issues that call for us to make hard decisions that impact this community to protect the college, I think this board is willing to do that.
Paul, do you have any comments at this point?
Just, I would concur with Greg's comments as I did Commissioner Lindstrom's in the management committee. And I guess just the notion, you know, we certainly need to be sensitive about enrollment dropping. I'm reminded, you know, in my day job, I spent a lot of time on energy policy. So what's happening with electric prices is there are fewer units of energy being sold, so therefore they're raising the rates. And I would hate for us to be put in that scenario where we're thinking about having to increase cost to people because we have fewer people buying our product. I'd much rather see us figure out a way to reinvent ourselves and come up with new ideas to be sustainable.
Angelina?
I'm confused because, I mean, I certainly believe that property tax owners should get a break That's why I voted last year to roll back and help assist Johnson County homeowners. This winter, this board had several discussions about potential recessionary forces as the cause to increase student tuition rate. But then according to the Federal Reserve studies, there is nothing impacted by recessionary forces like property values. So as a result, I'm beginning to worry that we're offering a conflicting policy here. On one end, we are punishing students with the rate increase, saying that under the assumption that there's the recessionary forces, and now we're proposing a significant mill levy reduction going down to 9.116, under the belief that it's not about recessionary forces, but about dark story theory, or other factors. So the administration had been asked in the management committee, which I attended as a citizen, members of this board, that we should consider this new information. I ask now that we have this new information, why are we not reconsidering this conflict that we've created?
Let me just react with a couple of things. I don't know that a 0.15 mil reduction is significant, but that's a fair assessment on your part. Leaving the luncheon yesterday at the Lenexa Chamber, a person came up to me who has a lot of history in this county. And when the numbers were shown, and I think the numbers you used, Dr. Sopcich, yesterday was 65% local tax support, and now we're proposing 66% for next year. His question was a good one. Would this county have approved the community college 50 years ago? And by the way, it was strongly supported by the citizens, as it has been each year. But would they have voted as they did if they knew that the cost of the college would be at the burden of 2/3 on the shoulders of the taxpayers? And a question that a lot of us have had over time, I'm in my 10th year now on the board, and it was a discussion we had 10 years ago. What is an appropriate ratio of support to the college? And at that time, we were talking perhaps 50% local taxpayers, 25% tuition, 25% state tax. Well, we've seen those numbers change quite a bit. And when I looked at the chart, Rachel, and thank you for putting that in the presentation about the historical ratio of balance of where we get our revenue, there was a time when we were a lot closer to 50% from local taxpayers than we are today. So we have a month to discuss. We have a month to ask questions and answer these questions. I think to the issue of the support of the taxpayers, and what was it, 14, 15, I think you said, when we asked for an increase in the mill levy, we approved it and the voters supported it. And I think now when we have the potential of excess, would it be prudent to lower that 0.15 mil. So that's really kind of where we are, and it's good to have a difference of opinion on that.
So, I'm sorry, can I have one
Go
more
ahead.
thing? So can you go back to the slide of the percentage of what the 4% would actually be? You're saying
yeah.
the 1 point,
Over here?
what is it? There's a lot of numbers.
The reduction would actually be a 0.15
Yeah.
mil.
So I'm curious, so I would like to see the stakeholders treated equally. So if we're giving back percentage to the homeowners in this 9.116 what-if scenario, what would that same evaluation be for a rollback in the student tuition rate?
What would a $1.6 million rollback in tuition look like? That's what you're asking? Yeah. I mean, and it would depend on the blend of residencies as far as, we looked at those charts on the different rates per in-state, out-of-state, out-of-district, et cetera. You'd have to go back and,
Because when I think
I wonder,
about
though-
having a sale on tuition, I mean, we're seeing a continual drop, another 2% in enrollment. What better way to boost enrollment to have a sale on tuition?
However, I'm not sure that even with the increase in the dollar over 4 years has created the enrollment drop as it has the economy itself.
But if we're going to give back money to one side,
Right,
why
I
are we
hear
not
you.
giving back money to the other side?
Rachel, could you go to the page on what the homeowner pays?
the $319?
Right,
Oh, let me go back to this other book. This one?
right. Because we just want to be clear that there'd still be an increase in what property tax owners pay year over year. It would not be the $19 change.
It would be
if-
$13.
It would be a $13 increase for homeowners.
Right, but the mill does change to 9.116.
Right, but
Right.
the average homeowner would pay an additional $13 to the college. So it's not a,
So they're not getting a reduction in
they're not
the
getting a
amount they pay.
reduction.
But we
They're
would
still
be
paying
reducing
more.
the mill to 9.116, that's what I'm saying.
Just so, I just want to make sure that because assessed valuations have gone up on average, the average homeowner would pay more.
I hear you.
We're going to move into our regular board meeting at 5,
Can I make
so
one
we've
more
got
comment
about
on that?
4
Just-
minutes left
okay.
on the budget workshop.
I just want to explain my view on the fallacy that we are giving back something to property taxpayers. In the last 5 fiscal years, we have taken $20 million more dollars in property taxes, $85 million to $105 million. In that same period of time, our tuition has gone up a couple dollars, and our tuition revenue has gone up several $100,000. So to try to equate those two and to act like by not taking 5.6 million and only taking 4 million, we have benefited property taxpayers at the expense of students, when our property taxes make just up 66% of our budget and our student tuition only makes up 18% of our budget. Everybody try to make this, you're anti-student if you want them to pay a bigger share. I'm fine with I supported the $1 tuition, $1 credit hour tuition increase, and I'm willing to support a $4 million increase in property taxes. All I'm saying is I'm not comfortable supporting a $5.6 million increase in property taxes. So don't make this anti-student or pit students against property taxpayers. They have been treated differently for the last 5 years to the tune of about probably $18 million of difference. And that's why I'm uncomfortable taking more from property taxpayers than we already said we were going to take in December.
I just want to clarify, so when we say taken, I want to make sure that we understand, I mean, this is a social contract, having a community college. Everyone is pitching in to be able to give education to the community. It's cheaper to pitch in than to each individual person have their own community college. So it's a social contract that everyone's putting in. When we have assessed values that go up, this is a percentage. We do get more. So I feel like I want to be careful about the word taken as if we're thieves. I want to make sure that we understand and we make sure the public knows we are investing this money properly to the social contract of providing public education.
Okay? Any other comments? Rachel, can you sing a song for 2 minutes? Anything else you want to sum up on the budget workshop?
No, I'm good. This concludes my materials. Thank you.
Thank you for the information.
So,
Good, good.
Rachel, I think we had a couple of trustees come in late. Could you quickly review our next steps?
Yeah, let me go back to that right quick. That's the last slide on here. All right, so next month, we'll do the vote on the management budget for 1920. And as Trustee Cook mentioned, we do that in May so that we can proceed with procurement of goods and services to get started on the new fiscal year. The notice of public hearing and then the public hearing itself will take place in August, and that provides taxpayers or anyone really to attend a public meeting and address any concerns or questions that they may have on the budget. And then again, the final tax levy is actually set at the end of October.
Good, thank you very much, appreciate that. And trustees, thanks for your questions and your viewpoints. And we have a month to study further and clarify answers. With that, we'll have the, thanks Rachel, appreciate it very much. We'll have the roll call and recognition of visitors. Ms. Schliest.
Okay. This evening's visitors include Katie Bergen, Jamea Haynes, Sean Schuffelberger, Roberta Eveslage, Dick Carter, Lincoln Carter, Mary Funk, and Cheryl Shaw. And some of our guests are still out in the lobby, if we could
Okay.
bring them in. Yeah.
can we ask the people that are out there to come in? We have awards and recognitions, and so I think we have them in the hallway. I will go to the podium. I'll go to the podium.
Jerry? Over here. The trustees leave too.
Nope.
Dr. Sopcich, as soon as you're ready, Dr. Sopcich, we'll go ahead with awards and recognitions.
We'd like to ask Karen Martley to do the introductions here. Karen is our Vice President of Continuing Education and Organizational Development. Karen?
Great. Our first two awards tonight are for the League for Innovation John and Sue Ann Roosh Excellence Award. And we have two people receiving awards tonight. I'd like to ask Pamela Holland to come forward first, if she would, please. And this award is through the League for Innovation, and it's for teaching and leadership excellence. The award came out around 2012, and the recipients are recognized at the League meeting, which was in February this year in New York. And it looks at communication to the commitment to scholarship of teaching and learning, motivates others to learn, respects diverse talents and ways of learning, develops positive relationships, and models leadership throughout collaboration and support. I just wanted to read a couple of things on Pamela's application. One of the things it talked about is Pamela is not only a motivator of the faculty or the students that she works with, but she's also a motivator for faculty. She encourages the adjunct faculty to learn new things about industry and crosses disciplinary lines to encourage full-time faculty and other programs to work together. A good example of this is Pamela saw a need to incorporate more writing into the marketing management courses. And so she worked on getting funding through that through a Carl's grant, and then collaborated together to do seminars and brought in outside experts to work with the students as well. The other thing that she does is she's quick to bring in outside people to come and work with the students. We all know that a good majority of our students are working as well as going to school, so to be able to access learning online is a very good option for them. But in addition to the online, Pamela wanted them to also have the work experience. So she developed an experiential marketing program, which is online, but the students also participate 4 different afternoons in experiences that take them to Hallmark, Sprint's Yellowfan Studios, KSHB TV, because there's really that importance of making that connection to the marketplace. And what I so appreciate that I see Pamela do is the opportunity for students to come in and take the networking seminar. So where they come in, they get a network, they learn how to do it, they receive the resources, but most importantly, you serve them food and drinks, so they have to learn to juggle all that while they're doing the networking as well too, which is something they're going to do in the workplace. So I really respect that they're learning that early on. So on behalf of the college, congratulations. We appreciate all you're doing to not only engage students, but faculty and the community.
Thank you.
All right, so first I just want to take a minute to kind of take in the room, because as she was reading, I started catching people out of the corner of my eyes, and I'm like, that is all fantastic, what was written for the award, but it really, I want to thank everyone who helps make all of that happen. You know, she talks about the networking event, and many of you get the email like, please come network with our students, let them practice. But, you know, it takes a lot of coordination to get that to happen. Invitations have to go out, information plan, we have to have space. The CoLab has just been fantastic for that, and they actually helped co-sponsor it. We do a lot of great things, and we work with industry, and so in order to pay for, I'm kind of jumping for a second, but in order to pay for the writing consultant to come in and work with us and help us
bring up the marketing and help the students be better writers, that was Perkins Grant. So Perkins comes into play with that a lot. And then, as you all know, it's hard to find funding for food. So, the collab said, hey, we'll step in this time for the food for the students, because I feel like if they're going to be in a realistic situation, I know that might sound a little silly to you, but it's a skill to hold food and have a conversation at the same time that is really important. So again, I just really want to thank, I was talking about the awards ceremony. I want to thank you all. I really want to thank all of you at JCCC. It's such a fantastic place. There's some colleagues in here that we talk about too, that it's almost hard to settle down and do our work because there's so many great opportunities out here that the college brings for us and for our students. So thank you.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it.
It's interesting, you just behaved like you won the award because you were very good at giving recognition to all the others around you, which a good leader does. So thank you very much for your leadership. Appreciate it.
Our second recipient tonight is Dr. Heather Seitz. And Heather is being recognized as well and also attended the League for Innovation. These are the medallions they received at the Innovation Conference this past February. But in her application, it talks about Heather not only being a responsive, dedicated professor, but she's also willing to always share her expertise. Heather doesn't just do this at JCCC. If you've been to PDD and seen the symposiums that we do, or numerous workshops and gathering of faculty, but she also does this throughout the Kansas City area and nationally. She's a leadership fellow and ambassador in the Partnership for Undergraduate Life Sciences Education. And as part of her role as an ambassador, she travels to colleges and universities to help biology and life sciences departments implement and align the AAAS Vision and Change Call to Action of 2011. She is also a Biology Scholars Program Research Fellow with the American Society of Microbiology. And in all of her work, she's very dedicated to that scholarship of teaching and learning. What I want to specifically mention in her application, the nominator said that Heather is a motivator. She's the one that motivated me to participate in the work. I'm an extreme introvert, and under most circumstances, I want no part of leading others. Yet Heather knew I was passionate about teaching and learning, and she was able to coax me out of my shell to not only serve on the grant, but she facilitated my involvement with a nationwide biology grant as well. This is done by Heather's enthusiasm and passion and drive and her ability to motivate others. Heather is in high esteem of others on campus. She's known for her ability to produce a high-quality product and guide others into a path of success. Heather is not only doing grant work that she designs and conducts herself, but she works alongside the cohort participants, modeling the process and collaborating with them to solve problems faced along the way. And does that nationally, very quietly. We're just so proud of the work that you're doing. I love this. Heather, rather than tell us how to succeed, she shows us how to succeed. So on behalf of the college, congratulations on your award.
I couldn't have said it better myself. The people in this room are really what makes things happen. So thank you for all the support, the grant writing team to help Succeed get funding, the collab to help host a lot of the events that I help participate in, my CREST cohort, which one of them is here as well, and of course the support of administration has been really key in allowing me to do this work. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Congratulations. Two words that I think I heard out of all that. You do it nationally and you do it naturally. So this morning on the news broadcast, you're well aware of the bacteria that is in water theme parks that is brain-eating. It's a brain-eating bacteria. And I think there's a great opportunity for you there to solve that problem. So, congratulations. Thank you very much.
I'd like to introduce Farrell Hoy-Janab, who's a director of the Faculty Development Program, and she will present the Innovation of the Year Award.
Yes, hi. Thank you, everyone. I'm here to present the Innovation of the Year Award. The League of Innovation of the Year Award has been given out for the last 30 years. And it's designed to reflect the spirit of innovation and experimentation upon which the league was formed. And it's especially designed to recognize innovative programs, practices, partnerships, policies, and activities that improve the ability of institutions to serve students and the community. And so I think we could not have a more deserving winner than the two people who created the Meal Share program. Claudia, you want to come on up? Claudia Martin Ayude, and then Jason Arnett helped her. He couldn't be here tonight. His step-grandchild was born this morning. But I first met Claudia serendipitously when I first met her. I think it was the day she met with financial aid to find out that this was actually going to work, and her enthusiasm was so palpable it about knocked me over. And so they didn't just stop there. And she made it so that students who receive financial aid could use their financial aid for food, but didn't just stop there. Then I know has worked tirelessly, worked with the grants office, gotten grants, worked with the foundation for students who maybe don't qualify through the federal financial aid, but do need the meal support so they can participate also. So congratulations. We don't have the league hasn't sent the certificate, but congratulations to Claudia and Jason.
Tell us why you have such a passion for this and the good work you're doing, please.
Being somebody that grew up in a country that I grew up with nothing, almost, and by the grace of God, I'm here because an American tourist gave me the opportunity to come to the U.S. to go to college. Because I was smart, but I couldn't afford to go to college there. And she offered to help me to come to the States to go to school here. And so I know that for a lot of people, you just need the opportunity. A lot of people have the talent, they have the ability, they just need the opportunity. And if it's just someone not being able to eat, that will keep them out of college. We're taking away potential for something greater for their life, and then inexplicably affect other people down the road, because they can be better people, they're more successful, and we all benefit from that as well. So that was part of my thinking, because I've known people who, we've caught people in the food court stealing, or we've known of people who are struggling to eat while they're on campus and end up dropping out of school. So that's kind of where it came from. And because I know personally what that feels like, I'm passionate about this, and I'm passionate about helping people, because I want to give people the chances that I've got, you know, because we can be better that way. So that's my story.
Gladia, thank you. Thank you for sharing your passion and reminding us that there are always people who have a need, even though we think everybody's quite comfortable. And we really appreciate what you're doing for all the people you're helping and yourself. Thank you, Gladia.
Thank you.
Next, we have Kate Allen. Kate is our Associate Vice President for Institutional Advancement and Government Affairs. Kate?
Thank you. Yes, I have a special presentation tonight. For the last roughly year or so, I've had the pleasure of working with Chris Gray to co-chair our 50th anniversary activities on campus. This has included working with more than 75 employees you will see here in the wonderful turquoise shirts. You'll see them around campus more and more this year. And we have one group who has worked very hard on a project that they're excited to present to you. We have the Cavalier Quilters here. So they have a 50th anniversary quilt they've been working on for months. They've hand-stitched this, and I'm pleased to introduce Mary Funk. Mary is a retired professor of English from JCCC, and I'll have her say a few words.
Are you up front? You are? Okay. In 2008, before the 40th anniversary of this school, the Diversity Office gave us an opportunity to participate in that, and we created the 40th anniversary quilt, which hangs in a case at the top of the circular stone staircase. It took us a couple years to get it framed and covered, and it's in a prominent place. I've heard that this one will also be somewhere hanging, and I'm going to check on it. Because it's very expensive to hang a quilt protectively that no one would touch it. Exactly. But what we did, and these are my doers, two of them are missing, One is traveling, and one is at a funeral in Hutchinson today, not hers. But we wanted to share this, and we are thankful for the opportunity for you to know what we do. I'll give you a little bit of history about it, but if you raise this up and move over, you'll see that we have primarily copied our 1940, our 40th anniversary quilt. Totally different colors, sunflowers, burgundy, gold, and brown. So that was so good that we mostly have copied this in the new colors. And we now have other techniques as far as labeling and printing, and so it's identified well. And on the back is a label, which will probably never be seen, that holds our names, and we're at the Johnson County Community College Cavalier Quilters, who have been in existence for now 11 years. And nobody knows that. We meet every other Tuesday for an hour and a half at noon. These are all hand done. We have no machines. And we come as we can and create not just these, but at least one quilt a year that's used as a foundation for a scholarship fund. We have created 2 quilts we've donated that are red, white, and blue to the Veterans Club. One year, the proceeds that selling chances on it, they went to their national conference. Another year, they had money to buy their own textbooks. We also have twice, you want to move over that way so those people can see it?
Get closer to it.
Over there. Yeah, and twice we have done a huge child's crayon quilt for the Children's Center, and they have gotten to buy equipment for that. 2 different years. We had scraps left from one, so we made it again.
Get it so I can see both of you.
But in the year 2010, we did a big quilt for the live auction for the Foundation Scholarship Fund. And we did that for several years.
Wow, that is so great.
And this is all handmade. There's not another one in the world like it. The Cavalier Quilters meet twice a month to make quilts by hand for scholarship and benefit quilts beginning in 2008. We also have made small quilts for the silent auction in November, so that it's no longer taking place, of baby quilts and lap quilts. And some of you people may own one. I hope you do. The other thing I wanted to say is Jana Wilnauer, who's not here tonight, was an asset counselor and an interpreter trainer. She's vacationing. She and I are the only 2 left from the one that was built for the 40th anniversary. 3 of us are retired. I retired after being here from 85 to 2015 as a college English teacher, instructor, professor, and I retired, and then I came and worked in the Writing Center for 2.5 more years because I just can't leave. And finally, I was asked if I wanted to return to being a tutor in the Writing Center, and I said, you know, you retire twice. Isn't that enough? So I'm now tutoring a 1st grade. But I'm proud of what we do, and I want you to give us all an applause. In our history, we have created things, and I almost brought one quilt that I still have in my house. It was made in 2012 because my husband bid on it and won it at a silent auction. And so I have one. Good. And there's one other story. One summer, we were asked if we would help hand quilt. An 85-year-old woman had finished a quilt and given it to her daughter, her niece, who was in the Achievement Center. And we said, oh, we'll take a little break and we'll hand quilt that lovely big quilt. And we presented it to her on her 100th birthday, finished. It's now hanging in her niece's house. But then I had to do a little write-up about it for a publication, and I said, we only do hand quilting for 100-year-old people. So that cut us down to
I have some bad news for you.
Oh, no.
You have missed your calling. You should be teaching extemporaneous speech here, and because you're really good at it.
Well, you know, I was trained to be a better teacher here.
Well, thank you. I was 17 and I broke my leg playing football, and while I was recovering, I made a quilt.
Good.
And I just know it's not, yeah, it's not nearly as good as yours.
Would you like to come join us?
I'd love to.
Would you like to chair the meeting?
There's a special talent that goes into a handmade quilt with special passion and sensitivity, and you gals are great. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Some of these started here without doing more than threading a needle.
That fellow right there is Chris Gray. He'll see that it gets hung in a timely fashion. We're going to direction of the superintendent.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, Dr. Weber.
Well, potentially behind door number one, we still have our men's basketball team. So if they're there, I'm gonna let them parade in real quick. When I do awards, I like to bring a lot of people, so we don't steal a lot of chairs.
Were they as quick on the basketball court as they are coming into this meeting?
They're definitely not as quick as the quilters. We know that. I think here they come.
Yes. I did. No. This guy, I love this kid. My first kid. He's a football player. He must have.
All right, as they're making their way in, I'm going to go ahead and share a little bit. This evening, we are recognizing our second athletic team of the year. As you remember, our women's volleyball team finished third in their national tournament in the fall. This year, this month, we're recognizing our 2018-19 men's basketball team for their season that concluded with a second place finish at the NJCAA National Tournament in Danville, Illinois last month. In order to get to the national tournament, the men had to win our region, and in doing so, they beat the #1 team and the ranked team in the country, Highland Community College. So that was an accomplishment in itself. But the tournament was a 16-team tournament. They made it to the championship game. The semifinals, I was there for both the semifinal and the final, was a terrific game in its own right. But the championship game was really interesting in that it kind of had some ebb and flow to it. We took an early lead. We ended up losing the game to Kirkwood, 64-58. But we took an early lead. They came back and had a lead at halftime and led by as many as about 15 points early in the second half. And our guys battled back and scraped back and just found a will and a way to get it to 2 points within a couple seconds left in the game. Kirkwood made some critical free throws at the end to make it a 6-point spread. But one of the things that I really remember about this season and this team was that early on in the season, I was asking Coach, how's the team look this year? How are we going to be? And he said, we're really deep, and I've got to find the right five. And I said, well, what's that going to be? What's going to make up the chemistry of the right five? And what he said was, we're focusing on one thing with this team, and that's be a good teammate. And if you're a good teammate, you're going to find a way onto the floor. And I think that held true. I got to watch them numerous times this year, and every game that they played in, they were very unselfish. They thought about the team first. In addition to finishing with a second place finish at the tournament, we had a couple individual awards there. Sophomores David Turner and General Williams made the all-tournament team, along with sophomore Nick Larkin, who received the Sistriano Best Small Man of the tournament, and was also recognized as an NJCAA second-team All-American. So this evening we're recognizing a well-deserved and well-accomplished second place in the country men's basketball team. Thank you guys for representing our country.
First, I want to say, it's a pleasure to be able to bring this group of young men into the Board of Trustees meeting, to have them recognized for their accomplishment. For them, it's a lifetime of work, not just a long-term goal from August to March. It's from probably a lot of these young men from the time they're 8 years old, to be able to work and get in a situation where they have an opportunity to play on the very last day of their season and to play for a national championship. They may never pass this way again in their careers, whether it's here or as they move on to a four-year school. So I'm really proud of this group and what we talked about with Dr. Weber early in the year and about our depth. We lost Isaiah Sears with 3 games to go in the regular season to a knee injury, which subsequently he's had surgery and is rehabbing and should be ready to go for us in 1920 by next fall. But we were able to sustain an injury to a critical starter and still fill in that spot like next man up and finish conference co-champs, win the region, get to the national tournament, and get all the way to the last day of the season. Along the way, they won 31 games, set a new school record for wins in the season. Nick Larkin was second-team All-American. And they understand with team success comes the individual awards. And this group was by far a great example of teamwork, team chemistry, being great teammates. And, you know, I know for myself being here since May of '91, 28 years, and being able to put our team in a position where, for the 3rd time, play for a national championship, win 2, and then with this group be a runner-up. I don't know if they really, I think they heard the coaches at the beginning of the year saying, hey, we have the potential to play for a national championship. Sometimes it takes a while for that to sink in with teams. Even though the coaches know it, we believe it, getting them to believe that. And I think we came back second semester and had some good wins along the way, and then all of a sudden it was like, you know, we can do this. We can go out and win the whole thing. And we had a chance. We had our shot. We did. We had a shot. And it just wasn't meant to be for us this year. But we appreciate, you know, Johnson County Community College, the Board of Trustees, our administration for supporting our program, Randy Stang, our athletic director, Dr. Weber, Pam Vassar, Dr. Sopcich, you know, that this could not be made possible without a tremendous institution like Johnson County Community College standing behind this group and our team. Because, I mean, we travel around, and when we play, even if it's just to go to Quincy, Illinois, or to West Plains, Missouri, it's a big deal for those schools to have Johnson County Community College on their campus. We go to Danville, Illinois, play in the national tournament. It's a big deal for Danville Area Community College and the Nationals for Johnson County Community College to be there. That means something to those people and those communities, especially at the national tournament. They really embrace us, and they understand who we are and what we represent. And I think this group has really represented Johnson County Community College in a first-class fashion this year. Appreciate all your support. Thank you.
David, would you do me a favor?
Yes, sir.
Would you stand up, please?
I am standing.
So, for the benefit of the team, how tall are you?
Not as tall as Isaiah.
Yeah. Well, as many of you maybe know, David played professional football. But there's a story about him when he was in his youth in the neighborhood playing basketball. And David's nickname is "You Take 'em," because in those days you'd have 2 captains, right? And they'd choose up sides. And David would always be the last one. And one captain looked at the other one and said, "You take 'em." So that's his nickname. Now, I share that because nobody understands the right 5 better than the coach and Trustee Lindstrom, because David has always been a team player. And when we talk about the right 5 at the moment, you're all part of the right 5 at the moment. So on behalf of the trustees and the college, thanks, Coach, for a great season. Appreciate it. Broke the record. And guys, good luck to you all. Thanks for all that you do. Great things. Next item on the agenda is the open forum. The open forum is a time for the board agenda for members of the community to provide comments to the board. There will be one open forum period during each regularly scheduled board meeting. Comments are limited to 5 minutes unless a significant number of people plan to speak. In that instance, the chair may limit a person's comments to less than 5 minutes. In order to be recognized, individuals must register at the door at each board meeting prior to the open forum agenda item. When addressing the board, registered speakers are asked to remain at the podium, should be respectful and civil, and are encouraged to address individual personnel or student matters directly with the appropriate college department. As a practice, the college does not respond in this setting when the matter concerns personnel or student issues or matters that are being addressed through our established grievance or suggestion processes or are otherwise the subject of review by the college or board. We have one speaker tonight. Please come to the podium, David Krug, and state your address for the record.
Hi, I'm Dave Krug. I'm an accounting professor here, and I live at 6014 West 157th Place in Overland Park, Kansas, 66223. I wanted to take this opportunity just to come up real quick and just tell you how much personally I appreciate all the changes that were recently made in regards to some of the human resource issues that were discussed and supported at the recent trustee meeting. Specifically, I'm talking about the Voluntary Employee Retirement Benefit, or VERB. We have a new acronym now that'll be fun to have on campus. We always love our acronyms. And also, especially the personal annual leave benefits and the holiday pay benefits for part-time, regular, and hourly employees. I wanted to take this opportunity as a representative of the faculty at JCCC and as a member of the Faculty Association just to say some positive things and some words of gratitude for what y'all did. I want to thank the Board of Trustees for approving these changes. As an accounting professor, I know that there are costs to this, but I really do thank you. I know in your positions at trustee, you hear a lot of criticism and complaints at times when you do something that someone doesn't feel is the best decision. And I know none of you get paid for this role. You do it to serve the community. So
You don't get paid?
You do not. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. So thank you. And I also want to thank Becky Centlever and Jerry Zimmerman, who I know, in the human resources area, who I know were two very, very big catalysts in those changes. They advocated very strongly for these. They worked very hard to come up with those, with a proposal and a solution that is sustainable and workable. And it wasn't easy, and it took a lot of time. So thank you to you. Jerry's not here, but thanks to him as well. One last thing, and I want to say this, and I know that this is no unique observation on my part or nothing that hasn't been said many times, but it certainly is, we certainly can say it again. But we know that the backbone of this college is in many ways the part-time and the regularly hourly employees who work behind the scenes at the college. And they just do fantastic work. And, I'm a teacher, and, teachers get thanked a lot in public forums, and you'll see bumper stickers. If you can read this, thank a teacher. And, you have students who email you to thank you, but I know a lot of these folks that I mentioned, they don't get near as much appreciation as they should. Yet we couldn't even open the doors. Literally, we couldn't open the doors without these folks. And again, I know this is not something new that's never been said in here, but all of us, no matter what role we play, all of our efforts go into creating an environment where learning can occur. And, I see Rex and, the facility folks did a fantastic job this winter. When I was sleeping, they were in the dark and the cold, clearing the sidewalks. The custodial staff are always here very late at night while we're sleeping, getting the campus ready for the next day. The computer help desk, we have the best computer help desk. I wish all the help desks I called in my life were as good as the JCCC as far as being responsive and talking to real people. I see Dane here. Dane has literally been behind the camera and taped probably over 150 of hours of my accounting lectures. So God bless Dane. No one should suffer so much. We mentioned the The meal share program, you know, people prepare that food. There's just so many people. I can't name it. I think of the test facility folks. Our hallways are always clean. Our campus is safe. I've seen the outdoor people planting new things, getting ready for spring. And, you know, we are I've been to community colleges before that were covered with graffiti. We don't have any graffiti on this campus. I mean, it's a beautiful campus, but these folks really are wonderful. They are part of our mission, and these changes that you made really, it's worthwhile. The benefits of this will be much greater than the cost, because these are awesome people, and I know I'm babbling. So, but thank you, Becky and Jerry, for this. It's the right thing. These folks who will benefit from this, especially the part-time folks, are part of our JCCC family, and I just wanted to express my gratitude as a faculty member here.
David, thank you. Both of my parents have deceased. Both of my parents were custodians and were those people that worked behind the scenes. So as you were talking about that, you brought them top of mind. Thank you very much for your sensitivity to all of the team that it takes to serve students. We appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Thanks.
I'll do that later. I'll do that at the right time. I'll do it right now, so everybody's wondering what he's talking about. We have a special guest in the audience, and it seems to me that he's got a Boy Scout uniform on. So if you would stand up and tell us your name and what you're working on.
My name is Ethan Carter, and I'm here to work on a bear badge. It's called Citizenship in the Community.
Very good. Good luck to you, and make sure you pay attention to the lobbyist report that's upcoming. That could help you with the merit badge. This time, we have the Student Senate report. Mr. Harris-Webster. While you're coming up here, Tiger, I've had sleepless nights for 2 months. I missed the March board meeting, and I believe it was in the February board meeting you were talking about you wanting my cowboy boots. And so I need to connect with you after this meeting or tomorrow, and we'll see if we can't get that taken care of.
We've already sectioned off a particular area for those boots, so it's ready, it's waiting. All right, let's see how I do this. So today, I have quite a bit for you. We have the clothing pantry, we have the budget allocations, we have the remaining budget of the Student Senate. We have our new executive board members because we had our election. We're also going to be opening up and starting a new ad hoc committee, and we have some constitutional changes and some announcements on clubbies and some activities that we're doing. So to kick it off, so we're changing the clothing pantry. We're calling it the career closet. Because we're really just taking, clothes that are more professional wear for students, for interviews, and it's up and running. So if you go to the Get Involved page and you type in career closet or clothing pantry, you can see there's lots of pictures of the clothes. So the students and each clothing item has like a number. So you just choose a few numbers that you like. You can come in and try them on. And yeah, we're excited to get that started. So that is that. So waiting for those cowboy boots. So budget allocation, since last time I've seen you, we've delegated $7,895 to 5 different groups: interior design, group club, veterans club, the Center for Student Involvement. We helped them with an event, which is pretty fantastic, called Start by Believing. And we also had the International Club, which Dave Krug is one of the main advisors for that. We helped him with an event, and the Honors Association. Which was pretty fantastic. So, yeah, any questions on those? It's pretty fun. I know budget, we've had enough of that. So, no, I'm just kidding. But anyways, so total budget, $38,000 a year. Fall semester we spent about $19,500, and this year so far we spent $12,600. So now we still have $5,700 remaining. Our goal is to spend every cent because the account just gets refilled. So trying to delegate as much as possible to the students. These are our new executive members. We had many of them here today, but they all had other things to go to. So, but we still have our new secretary, Caroline, so you want to So she's going to be our new secretary, and very happy to have her. Our president's going to be Ann Keat, vice president Delal, parliamentarian Lisa, and our treasurer's going to be Sonia. So very excited. We'll have Ann Keat and the rest of the new exec board here for the next meeting. Oh, we also broke a new record in votes. So we had more votes than we've ever had before from our records. The ad hoc committee. So this is pretty great how much we've been talking about the meal share program, because this is one thing that we noticed just as a student senate as well that we wanted to help address. So this is we're just kind of formulating this, and next month I'll come back with a bit more of an action plan to set up our new executive board members. But one of the main goals is to actually help fundraise for the meal share program and figure out avenues. We've already had a senator meet with Rob from the foundation to work with Everyday Hero. We're thinking about trying to set up a crowdfunding tool or utilize that crowdfunding tool, reach out to other sponsors. And from my understanding, they've only been able to really accept a little bit more than 50% of the applicants just because of a shortage of funding. So we really want to bring that number up. And so that's what we're working on. I'll bring an update on that next month. Constitutional changes, we've tried to figure out a way to get back to our senators. So one thing that each of our committee has a vice chair, when they help a lot with delegating tasks, taking notes, helping organize, getting us coffee, all the essentials. Joking about the coffee thing. But anyways, so we've tried to delegate. What we've come up with was a scholarship. Instead of creating a new executive board position, we've come up with a scholarship system to where we just want to give a 3-credit scholarship to each one of the vice chairs, because all the executive board members get a 12-credit scholarship. So that works out to be about the same, and we're going to benefit a few more people. That is our goal for that. And the clubby. So one thing that we've been working on with the foundation is a time capsule. Pretty excited for that. So we're going to be at the clubbies, which is going to be May 8th. Of course, you are all invited. We hope to have some of you there. It's a time where we can also just honor professors, faculty, and students, which is pretty fantastic. So anyone can submit we have all the different awards, and anyone can submit their recommendations for who should receive those awards. So that's when we'll be handing that out. That's also when we'll be doing the time capsule. We're still not quite sure on where the location is going to be for this time capsule. I was been told it's probably going to be implemented in the Center for Student Involvement. But yeah, so that's where we are currently. And for final updates, I just want to also say thank you to Dr. Weber for inviting myself and my vice president, Caleb, to the Promise Program talk. That was really a fantastic opportunity. We're right now, Student Senate's actually working on a support letter, so we're drafting a support letter for that because we think it's a really fantastic opportunity for students. So yeah, I look forward to hearing more about that, and hopefully it gets implemented in the future. But thank you. Yeah, is there any questions?
Thanks, Tiger. Great job. You guys are really doing a lot of good work. Appreciate it very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Tiger, what size shoe do you wear?
Well, Dr. Cook, what size shoe do you wear?
Good answer.
All right.
Thanks. I didn't hear that. What was I? I got distracted.
I didn't say anything.
Okay. Would the real Carter lobbyists come to the podium and make money on alumni?
Thank you, Dr. Cook, for introducing Lincoln. One of the requirements for the Citizenship in the Community Merit Badge is that you attend a public meeting. And the second item in that same requirement is that you find an issue where there's disagreement and report on that issue in your report and take a side. So we probably should have come a little bit earlier for the budget workshop, but we caught the tail end of that, and I promised him that we would leave when we got to old business. So if you could not disagree on anything for the next part of the meeting, that would be great. The legislature adjourned their first adjournment on April 5th, and so they've been on their spring break for the past couple of weeks. And it won't be until May 1st when the body comes back for the veto/omnibus session. Typically, we would call it the veto session, but because there are many budget items still open, we'll we'll dual hat it and call it the veto omnibus session. And the 90th day then goes to May 15th, or May 17th, rather. There are some topics that I've included in the report, and I'm not going to go over them. I'm just going to highlight a few important areas. But there are some issues that I've included in the report that maybe don't apply to the college, but I've included them because those are the items that are going to be driving the conversation when legislators come back to town on May 1st. The governor vetoed a tax bill. I think we'll continue to have some conversations about tax policy when legislators come back. There still is the issue of Medicaid expansion that is a leverage tool out there that some people want and some people don't want. The K-12 budget issue has been decided by the legislature. The bill is signed by the governor and now goes to the Supreme Court for review. They will be taking up arguments just about the time that the legislature is scheduled to go home, a little bit before that. And so we won't have an outcome on what the school finance decision looks like before the legislature hopefully goes home. They don't have to conclude their business on the 90th day. We're hearing that it could be a short session, although with some news that I'll tell you here in a little bit that we just learned while I was sitting here scanning social media during the awards and recognition piece. There's going to be some interesting conversations when legislators come back regarding budget items. The consensus revenue estimating process just concluded their meeting today and issued their report. But before the legislature left town, they left the budget open. We call it the mega budget because it deals with pretty much everything. Typically, they could handle that business before they go home on their break. They had a couple of items that they were in disagreement on and left that open. Right now, as higher education sits, they have agreed to about $7.5 million more than what the governor recommended. That's mostly good news. The House had $10 million more than what the governor recommended. The Senate had $5 million, and so they've arrived at the halfway point there with $7.5 million more than what the governor recommended for higher education. Of that $7.5 million, that goes to the whole system, and so only about a little more than $1 million of that would be spread across the 19 community colleges and the 6 technical colleges. And I don't know what that formula breaks out, but it would be based on the formula that the Board of Regents uses. So we're not talking about a great deal of increase here, but we're not going to complain either. The Senate did have a position in their budget to consider an additional $33 million during the omnibus session, and so that would be a great conversation to have. I hope we have that conversation, but given the outcome of the consensus revenue estimating process, I'm not sure how that's going to look. Just a few minutes ago, the budget director, along with certain folks from the consensus revenue estimating group, issued they had a press conference at about 4:30 p.m. And it looks like income taxes, individual income taxes, the estimate is about $162 million more for the next 3 years. But other revenues are down about $147 million. And so when we say other revenues, we're talking about sales tax and some of the fees or other income that the state counts as its receipts. When you look at the combined totals, the consensus revenue estimates were increased by about $15 million, $14.9 million over the next 3 fiscal years. So that's a very flat budget. With some conversation at the end of the budget workshop about dark store theory, property tax valuations, and how the trends have been going. I would say that I would urge caution as we continue to move down this road. We've had 1 year or so of new tax policy where we've seen some increased revenues, but by no means is that setting a trend. And so we are still in the process of kind of watching how the Kansas budget is stabilizing. I'm not sure we're there. I'm not sure we're there yet. So that is all brand new as of just about a half hour ago that is just coming out, and we've not had the opportunity to pour through the short version of the memo. It's about a 6-page memo that looks at the revenues for the state, and we'll be looking into that in greater detail as the weeks continue before the legislature returns to Topeka. I already talked a little bit about the fact that the The Supreme Court will be reviewing soon the K-12 education funding plan. One of the big pieces of legislation that I did talk about at the last meeting was the Community College Transparency Bill. And that was a bill that, when it was originally introduced, was quite onerous, was cleaned up considerably in the House, and then further amended in the Senate committee at our request. Some things that we wanted to make sure were contained in there, namely extending the implementation date so that all the community colleges could make sure that they were on the same page as they were moving forward and putting different pieces of items on their website. Most of the information that the bill requires, we already put on our website, but there were some different pieces that we wanted to make sure that we had the opportunity to all be on the same page. The governor signed that bill yesterday. The House concurred with the Senate changes, and so that sent the bill straight to the governor's office. Another bill that I wanted to chat briefly about, and I don't think it's going to go anywhere for the rest of the session, but it came up on general orders in the House, and that was a bill on concealed carry reciprocity in other states. That makes the bill what we call germane to add amendments for any gun-related issue. And so there was an attempt to amend on Representative Ballard's bill, which is HB 2297, that would allow for local control on campuses for concealed carry. That amendment failed. It was mainly the votes were mainly party line. That amendment failed. There was an attempt then to further amend the bill to have concealed carry training for anyone who chooses or chose to carry concealed on campus. That amendment failed, and there were a number of other amendments that were offered but ultimately failed. The one amendment that did pass was to lower the concealed carry age from 21 to 18 in Kansas. So that bill passed the House. It is over in the Senate Federal and State Affairs Committee. We're told that the Senate doesn't really have an interest in taking up that issue before the end of the session when legislators come back. Neither body really intends to go on general orders in either the Senate or the House, and so that makes it real difficult to figure out how to move different pieces of legislation forward that may be stuck in the process. It's good news for us. However, the bill has the life of extending into the next session. This is a carryover year, and so that's one of the exempt committees, and that bill will still be around next year. Let me close with a little bit of good news, and then I'll see if there's any questions. One of the things that we've been working on for some time is to bring the governor to campus, and this is in addition to when she was just here a couple of weeks ago for the town hall. She will be on campus for the annual foundation luncheon and the ribbon cutting on the 26th. So we're very much looking forward to the governor and her staff when she comes back at the end of April. So I would stop there, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, see if there's any questions.
Questions, comments?
Dick, thanks for your work on the transparency bill. That could have been a nightmare for all of us, and you and Kate did a great job staying on top of that one, so thank you.
Thank you.
If there is no difference of opinion on topics tonight on your way home, Mr. Carter, disagree with your dad on something and take a side, and you can get that merit badge taken care of. Okay?
That happens every evening in our house.
Thanks, Dick. Appreciate it very much. Next item on the agenda is the Audit Committee. The minutes are included in your packet on pages 1 through 3. Trustee Ingram gave a report at that at the March meeting, so the minutes are there for your perusal. Next item is college steering. College steering did meet.
Collegial?
I don't have the date in front of me. It's in your packet, first Tuesday. And the whole session was attributed to the Info Hub discussion. Info Hub is a new technology platform to communicate more efficiently among, in between, and throughout the college. I think the plan is for that to be fully in place as much as possible in May, but certainly also to work toward fall. A lot of questions, representatives were there from the Faculty Association, the Faculty Senate, and Educational Affairs, and the administration, and so I think Gerb was there and did a really great job of presenting from the administration side on behalf of Dr. McLeod. Dr. McLeod, anything you want to say? I think it's basically designed to improve the operations of the college, so.
Yeah, I think all in all, I think InfoHub will be a good opportunity for us to communicate better and more clearly the minutes of what's happening in committees and meetings around the campus to interested parties. So one of the biggest issues that you have in an organization of this size is maintaining kind of clear communication about what's happening as decisions are being made. And so I think this will go a long way towards helping us shore that up.
Good, thank you. Trustee Ingram, any comments about your?
No, I don't have
Good,
anything.
okay. Thank you. Next item is the Human Resource Committee. Trustee Lawson.
You are zipping through. Thank you so much. Trustee Musil and I were in the Human Resource Committee, and we looked at some review of the CLEAR program, which is on page 4 of the minutes of your board packet. I was actually pretty excited to go over that and learned a lot about how the courses are about $5 that we charge, and that was based on the JCC leadership in the Board of Trustees in previous years, so I'm very grateful for that. But that there also have opportunities for autistic families to enroll, and I remember a few months ago there was a father who came and spoke to us in the open meeting who asked us for an institutional program for his autistic children. So that was something that was on my mind when we had this presentation, and I was very pleased to know that there is quite a pathway through CLEAR program for families with autistic children that are aging out of K through 12. And then also there's an internship program that we have on campus now that we also have students from the CLEAR program that are in the vocational internship side, that through the bookstore as well as the CVS store on campus, that they pay the minimum wage. And so after some review before this committee, I looked into that, and several organizations do not do minimum wage. It's usually sub. And so it was very nice to know that we keep the equality of fair labor standards for our interns as here as well. We heard about the wellness incentives, and that was doing really well. And then we reviewed a policy update that I had talked about and brought up in January. And that is a recommendation that's coming through the board right now to, you can look on your board packet of page 5, 6, and 7. The intention of this was mainly to insert the gender identity words in our policy, and after our legal counsel reviewed it, there was 2 policies that needed to be reviewed. So those are also in your packet. So it is the recommendation of the Human Resource Committee that the Board of Trustees accept this recommendation of the college administration to approve the modifications to discrimination, harassment, and retaliation and the non-discrimination policy as shown subsequently in the board packet.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Any questions?
If I may, just a quick comment, Mr. Chair. I wanted to just thank Trustee Lawson for her leadership on this issue and raising the issue, and commend the college administration and I think the board and its continuing atmosphere of tolerance. I think that the school is known for. Thank you for raising the issue.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Anything else, Trustee Lawson?
I don't have anything else. Do you have anything else? That concludes our report.
Learning quality, Trustee Snyder.
Thank you. The Learning Quality Committee met April 1st at 8:30 a.m. We started with the sabbatical presentation. English teacher Ted Rollins was granted a sabbatical in the fall of 2017, and the purpose of his sabbatical was basically to learn how to help students transfer or apply their writing knowledge and skills beyond their independent composition courses. So basically, how can we transfer and unlock knowledge from one area to the other and keep that rolling? I don't know that there's a solid answer for that, but he's continuing to explore that topic. Next, Vince Miller, Dean of Academic Support, introduced the directors and chairs from his division and provided an overview of the many things that the Academic Support Division is responsible for. Next, Randy Weber presented several policy changes that are mostly minor in nature, and they are outlined in the packet. And for that, I have a recommendation. That is the recommendation of the Learning Quality Committee that the Board of Trustees accept the recommendations of the college administration to approve modification to the following policies: Advanced Standing Credit Policy 314.03 grade review and appeal policy 314.08, continuing education units policies 314.09, and non-student classroom participation policy 314.10 as shown subsequently in the board packet.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And that will conclude my report.
Thank you, Trustee Snyder. Management report, Trustee Ingram.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Management Committee met at 8 a.m. on Wednesday, April 3rd, in the boardroom. The information related to the management meeting begins on page 15 and runs through page 36 of the board packet. The Management Committee received several presentations from staff. Rachel Lears, Associate Vice President of Financial Services, CFO, provided a report on the 2019-2020 budget development. Her report was a preview of a more comprehensive overview that was provided earlier this evening during the budget workshop. I want to thank Rachel and her staff for the excellent work they do in preparing budget information for the board and for the campus community. We appreciate the clarity and the transparency of the college's financial information. Tom Pagano, Vice President, Information Services, CIO, and Dr. Phil Mine, Information Technology Security Officer, presented an update on the college's cybersecurity initiatives, including benchmark data from other higher education institutions. We appreciate our staff's diligence in protecting our vital information. Janelle Vogler, Associate Vice President for Business Services, and Jim Fikert, Director of Procurement Services, presented a summary report on procurement card activity from the past year. The procurement card program provides a means to accomplish smaller dollar purchases in an efficient manner. There was also information on the travel card program. Travel cards, or T-cards, were issued to all JCCC travelers beginning in mid-2018, with 311 cards now issued. Ms. Vogler also presented the single source purchase report. Rex Hayes, Associate Vice President, Campus Services and Facility Planning, gave a monthly report on capital infrastructure projects, and this report is found on page 30 of the packet. He also gave an update on the construction projects across campus and reviewed the report on the financial status of the facilities master plan. That report is in your packet on page 31. On pages 20 and 21 is a report on college memberships. Staff prepared the report in response to a question from Trustee Lawson at last month's Board of Trustees meeting. At this time, I will ask Barbara Larson to take us through that report, if you would do so, Barbara. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Ingram. Yes, that report is in your board packet. We did run a report on memberships paid in fiscal year 18. Last year, they totaled $370,000. And that was made up of 271 distinct memberships. And those memberships run the gamut from the Society of Interior Design or the Council of Practical Nursing. So we have many memberships that are the result of our academic programs and the professionals in those programs being engaged in professional organizations. As Dr. Sopcich stated last month when Trustee Lawson asked the question, we have a number of several college-wide memberships that are paid for from the Board of Trustees budget, and they are among our largest memberships in terms of cost. Those are the Kansas Association of Community College Trustees, the League for Innovation, the American Association of Community Colleges, and the Association of Community College Trustees. And those four memberships and the amounts paid are based on the size of the institution, generally based on student headcount. Those four memberships last year cost the college roughly $120,000. So those made up roughly 1/3 of our total memberships. In addition, we have a number of partnerships in the community that are very key to our work, especially as it relates to workforce development. We are members of various chambers of commerce across Johnson County, whether it's Leawood, Overland Park, Gardner, Edgerton, Northeast Johnson County, DeSoto, and a number of economic development councils. Those partnerships totaled $52,000 last year. And the remaining memberships, again, are based on professional affiliations that many of us have, whether it's the International Association of Campus Law Enforcement Officers or the American Association of Collegiate Registrars and Admissions Officers. Certainly, all of our faculty and staff take advantage of the services provided by these organizations, whether it's professional development, advocacy, or just a chance to network with other colleagues across the nation or the world that are involved in like professions. As Rachel mentioned during the budget workshop, all memberships, along with all of our budget submissions, whether it's new or continuing, must be justified by our budget administrators in preparing their budgets.
Just have a question. I asked for you to provide me with the top $15,000 month, the memberships, and there's a couple that are not on this right here. What is the Kansas City Area Dev Council? That's 25,000.
Kansas City Area Development Council.
Development Council. What is that?
It is our participation in the regional Kansas Economic Development Council.
Okay. And then the American Culinary Federation is 19,800.
And that's generally a pass-through amount. We actually have our students in the culinary program become members or affiliate members.
They do become affiliate members, and that also pays for some of the testing required to gain their, aside from a degree from Johnson County, you actually become a certified sous chef and chef through the ACF because that is a national body. So those dues actually go to pay for a lot of the testing for the certification that comes along with the degree. So students get both.
Okay, so what do we get with the 25,000 at the Kansas City Area Development Council? What is that?
I'll ask Karen to respond to that.
That is really the Regional Economic Development Council for the city. So the way we work with them primary way we work with them is all of the new businesses when they come into Kansas City, when they're looking at whether it be site locations, the employee base, what they're going to draw from. That's where it starts. So if they're looking at, they're kind of the convener, so it might be looking at 3 different cities. So we sit at the table and present on the college and share the data on our students.
Excuse me, it's about economic development. Metropolitan Community College is a member, Kansas City, Kansas Community College is a member, I believe University of Kansas, University of Missouri. I mean, education is a very important component of this education, of economic development in the Kansas City region. It's a regional enterprise, not just solely dedicated to Johnson County.
And they also have the Kansas City Smart Port is included in that as well,
Right.
too, which is all the supply chain logistics for the big hub in Kansas City. So they support all our curriculum in those areas, too.
So the college really has 3 foundational pillars in terms of its offerings. Career and tech education is one of them, but through this Economic Development Council, we work very closely with all the chambers on bringing business to town. Workforce development gets a piece of that, and it's just been pretty foundational to the purpose of our college. Trustee Cross and Trustee Musil.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we invest in these associations in large part to have relationships, not only with the associations, but with many of the key pillars and stakeholders in those associations, right?
Exactly.
And then they become, not necessarily become, but many of them already are, stakeholders in our institution, donors, people who provide, blanking, what do we call the committees that meet to advise different?
Advisory committees.
Advisory committees.
Right? This is why we do
Yes,
this.
we all work together for the betterment of the Kansas City region. This was,
One more thing, if I may.
this is, oh, sure.
I'm sorry. This includes travel for administration and trustees, all these memberships?
No.
Just a membership.
Could we look at travel costs
In what way?
Can, but
for any of these memberships associated with these?
We would, if,
Well, that's one thing I had asked. So I asked for information on the number of what it is we pay, who attends, and then the quality of like a satisfaction survey back to find out the people who are attending these, do they actually feel it's worthwhile? So we haven't gotten to
I
that.
believe that there's a process for that in terms of when we approve the budget. I think we have to rely upon our deans and department heads and all the people that develop the budget, that they make good judgments about where people travel to and from. So I don't know that that's something that we want to get involved with in trustee meetings, but we certainly can deal with that when we deal with the budget. Trustee Musil?
I don't have anything else, but I think we do, if I remember from audit committee, we do look at trustees travel.
Correct.
Twice a year, once a year, whatever, but we do look at that. So But if you try to look at every employee that traveled on all of these groups, that would be a monumental task, I think. But I don't have anything further.
I think we leave that up to our department heads, and that's why we have them to do that.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Is there a way to be a member of the National Association of Community College Trustees without having to be a part of the Kansas Associations of Community College Trustees?
Yeah, I guess you can belong to ACCT without KACCT, but I'm not sure what.
That is something we'd have to check on.
Well, yeah, we'll check on that. For some reason, I was thinking that you have to be part of the local state one to be part of the national.
Okay.
I'll check.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
What would be the interest of being one and not the other?
I'm sure there's several reasons. Everybody might have one.
Okay.
I can't see any right now, but recommendations, Trustee Ingram.
Okay. The Management Committee has a number of recommendations to present this evening, and I apologize, I'm going to skip backwards. Thank you. Sure. Forgive me. The Management Committee has several recommendations to present this evening. Dr. Larson presented information on changes to the data classification and security policy. The recommended update serves as a minor clarification to reference that applicable laws will be followed with respect to college data storage and security. We do have 9 recommendations. This is the first one. It is the recommendation of the Management Committee that the Board of Trustees accept the recommendation of the college administration to approve modifications to the data classification and security policy, and I will make that motion.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
There was also a recommendation for changes to the safety and security policy, infectious disease policy, and national incident management system policy, which have undergone a regularly scheduled review. The recommended updates include minor clarifications and language updates for consistency with current college terminology and processes. It is the recommendation of the Management Committee that the Board of Trustees accept the recommendation of the college administration to approve modifications to the safety and security policy, infectious disease policy, and national incident management system policy, and I will recommend that.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Any questions?
Question, yes. This, the policy here, page 16, right? I
Right.
think I'm for it. I just think it's fairly broad language. Just wanted to be the lawyer pointing that out. Like it seems to give the administration pretty broad discretion in terms of providing a safe environment for its students, employees, and visitors through the establishment of reasonable practices that support a safe and secure environment in all buildings and grounds owned, leased, and operated by the college. It essentially gives our police the authority to do whatever they feel necessary. Is that right? For the members of the committee, I'm not on that committee.
I think it says the college is committed to that. I don't think it authorizes any specific actions by police or otherwise.
Tanya?
I can comment to that. It serves a little bit of an umbrella statement policy going into that 600 series, which is all focused on safety and security. Some of that, though, is to set the stage with some requirements that we need to represent to organizations such as the National
Incident Management System.
Other requirements that they have at national level to show that we have that commitment at the board level.
I guess that leads to, is this because of measles?
No, this policy is not new.
Okay.
It's only the red line just that shows up. So this policy has been in effect for quite some time now, since 2012.
Yes, I see that.
And Elisa Pacer's position really requires the statement to exist so that we can report in on compliance efforts.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Any other questions? We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Next, Dr. Larson presented information on an agreement with the KCATA to provide free or subsidized bus transportation on certain routes to students and employees. As this is a new program, I'm going to ask Dr. Larson to take us through the highlights of the proposal before I make that motion.
Thank you, Trustee Ingram. As we've discussed earlier tonight, a lot of our budget focus this year has been about removing barriers to student success. And one of those barriers is in some cases, we know, transportation. We also have a tremendous commitment here at the college to sustainability and to our sustainability goals. As part of that, in recent months, administration has spent a considerable time discussing with Kansas City Area Transportation Authority the proposal to begin a UPass program here at Johnson County Community College. Similar programs are in place at UMKC, at KCK Community College, and at Metropolitan Community College. And under these programs, anyone with a valid ID, whether it's an employee of the college or a student, can ride certain routes under that KCATA operates for free. We're proposing that we begin a UPass program here effective August 1st. Currently, we have 5 routes with 72 daily stops on a normal weekday coming to our campus. We know that ridership is not huge here. We're largely a commuter campus, but we would hope that a program such as this would really begin to increase ridership on the transit system. In addition, KCATA has piloted what's called the microtransit program this year, and so for the first year of the contract, the microtransit services would also be available to our students. This program, as we've are proposing, it would exclude the K-10 connector route. So this would not be limited to the 5 bus routes that we're discussing here that do come to the college. They would be available once you have your ID, and with some work between KCATA and our information services staff, so that there are card readers that can read our ID cards. Students or employees would be able to ride many other routes in the KCATA system on a Sunday afternoon. The cost for this in year 1 is $25,000. It would come from our student activity fees. That's slightly more than 1% of our student activity fee budget. So we're really excited about this in terms of what it can mean for our students that may have difficulty with transportation needs, that take the bus currently, and what it could mean for future ridership. Ridership currently was estimated based on KCATA observation, and so we think that our average ridership per day is about 140 individuals when you exclude that K-10 connector. Again, not huge, but once we have the program in place, we'll have real data, and we would also receive twice annual reports from KCATA about ridership, about those swipes on the bus.
So do you have a motion?
No, there is no motion.
Yes, there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I do. I apologize. All right, you ready?
Could you share it with us?
It is the recommendation of the Management Committee that the Board of Trustees accept the recommendation of the college administration to approve a contract with the Kansas City Area Authority, Transportation Authority, KCATA, for college participation in KCATA's Ride KC University Pass program, and I will make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Trustee Snyder will abstain for conflict of interest on the KCATA board.
Recuse?
Question that I have is if the 140, this is going to go from August 1 to July 31st, and if it ends up that we have 280 daily, will that price be adjusted during the year, or are we
No.
guaranteed that price?
We're guaranteed that price.
But we
for
could
year 1.
assume that there would be an adjustment in the following year.
We can assume that, correct.
Trustee Musil.
No, I was just going to mention something along that line, that this is a 1-year pilot, and we'll evaluate at the end of the year, see what kind of success.
2 things I'll evaluate at the end of the year, to me, would be, I understand we want to make this accessible so students can get to campus. It's also for employees.
Correct.
So I'll be interested in the ratio.
Okay.
And I'll also be interested in the ratio of rides that have nothing to do with campus directly.
Right.
I mean, I'm, and people that take the bus from wherever to the zoo or whatever. But when I first learned about this, and I asked you some questions about it, I support the idea of finding ways to get students on our buses to get to our campus. I think another program we ought to think about is maybe a specific designated fund for those who have specific transportation emergencies. I know we have some of that in the foundation. I don't know if Kate's still here, but this is broader than I thought, and I assume the employee thing is part of our sustainability issue, not because of accessibility or hurdles. So I'm interested. I'll be interested in seeing what it turns out to be.
Trustee Lawson?
For me, I don't like that it's attached to student fees. I feel like we had a big thing last year about the track and how student fees were going into that. So I just feel like if there's another way that this could be funded without having to have students pay for students.
We'll let
So
the
that's my
administration deal with that.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Trustee Cross?
The K-10 connector remains in place, is that right?
Yes,
Yes. And then, I just want to comment, Madam Trustee Ingram, it was an excellent motion. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions?
Good second, it was a good second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next, Rex Hayes and Jay Annell reported on an agreement that KCP&L has offered customers for a renewable energy option, allowing schools and other large commercial customers to displace current energy production purchases with a higher level of renewable energy sources up to 100%. Both Rex Hayes and Dr. Annell are here tonight, and I would ask the board if there are questions of them before I proceed with the motion.
Let's do the motion and the second to get it on the table first, and then we'll
Okay.
deal with questions.
All right, it is the recommendation of the Management Committee that the Board of Trustees accept the recommendation of the college administration to enter into a 10-year renewables direct participation agreement contract with the Kansas City Power and Light, KCP&L, and I will make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and did you make a second, Trustee Cross?
Second.
Okay.
Those.
Is Dr. Antel going to speak to this? Is it before you have a question?
They're here if there are any
Okay.
questions.
Trustee
of-
Cross? Question?
No.
Oh. Question? Nobody has a question? Everybody's just scratching their head?
Nobody's looking to give me the floor. They know I am.
Second that.
Sorry.
It looks like you want to say something. You got 15 seconds.
Well, actually, I can answer sort of Greg's question in the previous issue. The microtransit, will actually help with that particular issue a little bit. Because the microtransit system is part, this first year, is part of, and we negotiated that with KCATA. And so at least for the first years, for students who are in that area or close to it, they will have that emergency taken care of as part of that package.
Thank you. Thank you.
But I would say this about this issue right here. Assuming that we're able to land the final details in the contract, which we believe we're going to be able to, this will mean that the college will reduce its carbon footprint by about 85% from when we started all of our work. And those of you in the room who really it's a big deal, you aren't paying attention.
Thank you.
That's a great job.
We always pay attention when you speak. Thanks, Dr. Antel. Again, the record would show that Trustee Snyder will abstain. Any other questions? We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
There were 5 recommendations based on bids. The first was for search engine marketing and search engine optimization services. It is the recommendation of the Management Committee that the Board of Trustees accept the recommendation of the college administration to approve the proposal from Rank Fuse for search engine marketing and search engine optimization for a base year of $90,996 for fiscal year 2019-2020 and a total expenditure not to exceed $454,980, and I will make that motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions? Big ticket item. Any questions?
Is that enough?
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
The next bid is for digital advertising. It is the recommendation of the Management Committee that the Board of Trustees accept the recommendation of the college administration to approve the proposal from Centro for digital advertising for a base year of $135,000 for fiscal year 2019-2020 and a total expenditure not to exceed $675,000, and I will make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and I guess I would make a comment for the public again. These are large ticket items, but they have all been vetted and reviewed in management committee meeting and in department meetings, and a lot of discussion has been held over these items. Any questions? Any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Investigative background checks and drug test screening services is the next bid. It is the recommendation of the Management Committee that the Board of Trustees accept the recommendation of the college administration to approve the new contract award to Castle Branch Corporation for an initial one-year total not to exceed $62,230, with an estimated five-year total not to exceed $311,150 for the college's Health, Occupations, and Practical Nursing Department. Each year total may vary in cost dependent upon student enrollment quantities and the type of background or drug screening services performed. And I will make that motion.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Second. Any questions? Any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is active classroom renovations. It is the recommendation of the Management Committee that the Board of Trustees accept the recommendation of the college administration to approve the low bid from KBS Constructors, Inc. in the amount of $299,348 with an additional 10% contingency of $29,935 to allow for possible unforeseen costs for a total expenditure not to exceed $329,283. And I will again make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I happened to go by the CoLab today. It was packed with students and faculty and all kinds of people engaging. And I'm assuming, I think the implication is these interactive classroom are a model of that. And I'm really pleased that we've taken this step to do this. I think it's very positive for student learning. Any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Our final bid for the Student Center Campus Store retail fixtures. It is the recommendation of the Management Committee that the Board of Trustees accept the recommendation of the college administration to approve the low bid from Nebraska Book Company, Inc., doing business as Campus Store Design, in the amount of $285,989.70, and I will make that motion.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Trustee Snyder seconds. Any questions? Trustee Musil.
I don't know who is in charge of this, is Barbara or Randy, but we're building a new bookstore as part of the Student Center, had to relocate the other one. It's going to be smaller.
Yes.
It seemed $285,000 just for the fixtures, for kind of the shelves and stuff, seemed high to me. I mean, I don't have any background in that, but we were not able to reuse anything, and really for purposes of making this efficient, we had to go out to this bid.
Yes, in terms of the design, and I'm actually going to ask Janelle Vogler to respond to that more specifically if she could. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, they are able to reuse the shelving pieces that go this way, but it's the fixtures that hold the shelves. They're the original fixtures from when we opened over in the Student Center. So we are replacing all of that and the display pieces and what holds the clothing and things like that. So we did bid it. We had one bid come back and then another one that wasn't a viable bid for that. It's a pretty narrow market, but that was the price that came back. So to answer your question, we are reusing parts. The shelving pieces we are reusing because they still fit.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thanks, Janelle. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Yes.
Aye. Opposed? The motion carries.
Okay, thank you, and that concludes my report.
Next item is the President's recommendation for action. Treasurer's
Mr.
report.
Chair.
Trustee.
I just have a question on the network infrastructure and equipment services. I know there was a presentation that was done. Can I ask I have three questions about the network.
Okay, go ahead.
So one of the items that I heard from the local IT companies in this area in my own research is we use entirely about Cisco-based in the presentation, correct? Meanwhile, in the public market, we're seeing a pretty aggressive rise in product for Arista and Juniper. So the mid-market solutions by Ubiquita and others, there's nothing wrong with Cisco. So, but do we have a plan for our students to at least interact with these other technologies?
Yes, in our academic space, we provide a full suite of different types of products that are driven by the academic side. So if there's a shift in market for academic programs to be something other than Cisco, that would be driven by the academic programs. But as far as our infrastructure to support daily operations and so on, employee staff and faculty, that comes through Cisco. That's our standard infrastructure.
Okay.
Yeah, we use a separate set of, we house the academic pieces on different servers so that while students are testing things, trying to break things, working on cybersecurity, that they don't interrupt the normal commerce of the campus.
Okay. And we have a plan, four-year plan, that includes a path to, no, I'm sorry, do we have a four-year plan that includes to 200 to 400 gigabits as far as fiber installations, as we are projecting based on gigabits-only solutions?
Yes, everything we do is based on the need, basically as a service level provider. So anything on campus, moving off of campus, or coming into campus is based on the bandwidth needs of students, faculty, and staff. So we can speak about specific speeds, but it really depends on what that need is.
Okay, and then in the presentation that you talked about blade server maintenance, and what is included in that? Are blade server runner like Hyper-V or MV where?
So blade servers are used both for our infrastructure, again, sort of differentiating, like we spoke to, with internal blade servers for our own internal storage, internal processing needs. We also have blade storage and blade processing for for academic needs. So depending on what those programs need versus what we need for our internal work, that drives which blades we buy, how we buy them, how we install them.
I appreciate that, and thank you so much to your department for the amount of work that you put in. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Treasurer's report, Trustee Musil.
Mr. Chairman, the board report at page 37 includes the treasurer's report for the month ended February 28, 2019. Some items of note on page 1 is the general post-secondary technical education fund summary. February was the 8th month of our 2018-2019 fiscal year. In March, we received $3.4 million from Johnson County from an ad valorem property tax distribution. That will be included in next month's report. The unencumbered cash balance as of the end of February was $112 million, approximately $10 million lower than the same time last year. And all expenditures in the primary operating funds are within approved budgetary limits. And with that, it's a recommendation of college administration that the Board of Trustees approve the treasurer's report for the month ended February 28, 2019, subject to audit, and I will so move.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Trustee Cross, second. Any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. Monthly report to, thank you, Trustee Musil. Monthly report to the board, Dr. Sopcich.
Thank you, Trustee Cook. We're going to do a little lightning round here to kick things off. So, Karen, you're first.
Well, I just wanted to report on, we have a pretty broad audience. We serve in continuing ed, and we've put a lot of focus on our youth programs in the summer, which are getting ready to start again. And we're really excited as we've changed that format to the middle school, high school range, and more focused on STEM and programs that they're interested in going to the college route, getting them on campus. Those numbers are up again this year, another 8%. We've taken close to 1,100 enrollments over the last 60 days, so we're really excited about that. And personal enrichment is also up 22%, so we're excited about that. If you were on campus on April the 11th, I want to mention we hosted the Microsoft, which is a DigiGirls event that they do around the country. And there were 150 middle school and high school girls here on campus participating in mentoring and breakout workshops and networking. So I don't know if Dr. Warner is here, but I think she might have been one of the speakers in one of those breakout sessions. So anyway, it's always nice to have youth on campus and let them meet with the faculty that are teaching in programs and meet staff. So we're really excited about those numbers. And I have our new youth catalog. If anyone doesn't get that or knows someone that might be interested in a youth program, I'd be glad to pass out.
Thank you, Karen. Randy.
All right, thanks. I'm going to take this opportunity. Usually I like to take the lightning round and brag about the work of others. I want to talk about the work of the college on a really innovative initiative we did. But fortunately, John Clayton and myself were able to present at the ACCC conference we spoke to earlier. It was in Orlando last weekend. And we did a session called Transforming Lives, Telling Our Stories Through Wage Data. And the concept really behind this is as community colleges where we used to be about access, and then after a little while, it's like, it's nice that you're getting students, but you really should be about completion. So then we moved to the completion agenda, and all of a sudden, it's like, it's great that you're completing students, but are they really earning a living wage? And so it's always kind of that, what's that next thing, what's that next thing? Well, through our office, we were able to do a partnership with Equifax to get some wage data on students who attended Johnson County Community College and the impact of completion. So not just attendance, but completion for various student groups. John could speak to the methodology all night if you'd like him to. But I wanted to point out some key points of interest for us. It's a really in-depth report, but some things that really will help us inform the way we guide and support students. So for example, one of the things that we've learned through this data is we have certain programs, and one I'll use example of is computer science information technology, so CSIT. And CSIT, when our students are hired, there's not really a consequential difference in their hiring range, whether they complete it or not. However, when you fast forward 5 years, and they're 5 years removed from attendance here, those who graduated are earning 56% more than those who didn't. So those are the kinds of stories that we can tell students to say the impact of completion. It may not be in your beginning salary, and those students are making north of $80,000 with associate's degrees. Those are compelling stories as we talk about recruitment and getting students to enroll. There are stories that are less glamorous that we're learning as part of this as well. So for example, our students who come in who are not need-based, as we define it by Pell eligibility, the impact of completion, a student who graduates who's not need-based, 5 years out earns 7% more than a student who doesn't graduate. That's important to know, but even more meaningful is for the students who come in need-based and are Pell eligible, those who graduate earn 23% more than those who don't. So what that says is that our need-based students, the importance of graduating for them is significant. And so what kind of supports and services and wraparound things do we do as we start to learn some of these things about our students? And so we're kind of just digging into the data. There's a lot of other compelling information that's there, but those are just a couple examples. We received tremendous feedback from those in attendance and a lot of folks because as I shared with the group, years ago, we used to always say, well, community colleges are doing fine. The problem with when you use our iPEDS report to tell our story is that a lot of our students aren't graduating, but they're transferring. And so we had a group called National Student Clearinghouse come out and say, well, they're graduating some, and even more are transferring, but maybe there's still work to do. And that's really what we're saying with wage data as we start to look at this to say, yeah, our students are completing, and maybe they're even going to work in their field, but let's look years out as, you know, is it impacting, and for us, for our mission, are we transforming lives? And so we've got some of this information, you'll see a lot more around it, and the way we really plan to use it is to help navigate students into certain programs and success strategies.
That's great, thanks Randy. Mickey.
Well, I'd like to give you three pieces. The first, you got to hear from Professor Krug tonight, thanking you for some work that we have done, that you guys have done as a board. I will toot his horn a little bit because he won't. He's been accepted to present a case study that he developed specifically for two-year accounting students at the conference for the Association for Accounting, teaching accounting classes at the two-year college, which they call TACTIC. And so he will be one of the first in the country to actually have developed something that we will use for two-year students. Most of these sorts of scenarios are reserved for junior, senior classes, and so he's given our students an opportunity to take on some of these real-life scenarios earlier on in their career. I told him to copyright it because after he presents, it'll be everywhere in the country because other people will borrow liberally from what he has done. In terms of our academic teams, the debate season, which we talked about a little bit last month, actually wrapped up. We did quite well. After getting our berth in the national tournament, we actually also received word that we had a team that made the Nationals of Lincoln Douglas debate. Which is the first time that has happened in about 20 years. And so those folks were quite successful. Sadly, we lost in the Sweet 16 to the #1 seed after we won 3 preliminary rounds and then 3 regular rounds against teams seated higher. We came in as a 14 and won our way into the Sweet 16, where we lost to the University of Oklahoma by 2 ballots at the end of the round. And yet, in doing so, we were actually 16th out of 104 teams that actually made the tournament, and we received the Joy McClintock Community College Award, which gives us our 3rd straight regular season sweepstakes win at the national level, but also gave us the National Best Team Award. So. So Coach Stout did a phenomenal job of getting that done. And then on the more local front, after we have worked diligently to kind of produce what we have with KU Edwards and to increase our opportunities for students to transfer, I've been asked to head up a group including Pratt and Highland, where we will take the next step and look at the inauguration of an Associates of Fine Arts degree, which will allow our students in music, theater, and fine arts to be able to transfer directly into Bachelor's of Fine Arts programs in the state. We currently do not statewide have an AFA, and so those students have a much more difficult path, and it is more one-off connections between schools that allows them to transfer. So we're going to try and create a singular degree that allows all students at the community college who are interested in fine arts to be able to transfer more seamlessly. So we'll start working on that this month.
Cool.
That's great. Thanks, Mickey.
Yeah.
Today, while we were all doing what we would normally do in an afternoon, our Model UN team was being honored in the United Nations General Assembly Hall for their success at the International Model UN. Our college achieved an overall distinguished delegation and outstanding position award for the Commission on the Status of Women. And that is a great tribute. We represented Tanzania, and this is something that we've done over the years in New York City. We have great success doing this. I always like to read the students who were part of this. These were 3 students who were especially honored, and they called them for staff positions. Marouane Bakit, Overland Park, originally from Casablanca, Morocco. She was chair of the General Assembly Second Committee. Jessie White from Paola, president of the JCCC Model UN and rapporteur of UN Women. Sina Murray from Olathe, co-chair of the General Assembly Third Committee. And I'd like to read the other members of the team. Jasmine Birch from Shawnee, Dagan Kingery, the team vice president from Overland Park, Joshua Toy from Olathe, Miroslava and Sofia Corral-Vale from Overland Park, originally from Juarez, Mexico, Blake Steinmetz, Lenexa, Braden Jones, Olathe, Megan Dietz, Lawrence, Anna Lim from Kansas City, Missouri, originally from Seoul, South Korea, Faith Manchion, Overland Park, Hunter Richardson from Roland Park, Joy Carpenter from Overland Park, and David Arterburn from Overland Park. These accomplishments by this group represents 15 years of success for our Model UN program, and credit goes to Dr. Brian Wright. When you talk about an advisor of a program, and I attended one of these with him, Brian was one of the advisors who was there constantly with the team at any hour of the day or night. He's incredibly dedicated to this, and he's also a great promoter of his program. Additionally, and this has all been about student success, this past week we've had Howard Schultz, the CEO of Starbucks. He was on a listening tour. He came to our campus. That was an opportunity that we turned around in a very short period of time. Jeff, Chris, everybody jumped on board. Sean, we probably had about maybe 24 hours to make that happen. Mr. Schultz presented his positions on many things, and then he opened it up for questions. The first question came from one of our students, Colin Guston, and the second was from Joshua Sanders, another one of our students. These questions were impressively presented, perfectly phrased, well referenced. They were of great depth. We were all so proud that our students rose to that occasion. Later, Mr. Schultz approached me, and he commented about the incredibly high quality of the questions from our students, And he was really impressed by Joshua's recitation of a lengthy George Washington quote that he included in his question. It's absolutely terrific. We feel so proud for that. So I've talked about the UN, and I've talked about the students answering questions. Day in and day out, we are amazed by what our students can do. And it doesn't just happen. They're not miraculously by walking in this college. It doesn't happen that way. It happens because of the instruction that goes on in the classroom, the incredible faculty, and the staff in every single aspect of this college. That is the result when everybody comes together, and that is the benefit and the accomplishment that our students get to enjoy. Yes, Lee?
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Mr. Schultz, Governor Kelly, I know Ted Cruz came here, Sam Brownback, do they get to use our facilities for free?
No, that's a great question. I think we're really proud of the fact that how that's worked out. For example, on one side, I know there's a local institution that's having some challenges with that. We had Betsy DeVos, right? Now, that was the Secretary of Education. Boom. It's quite it's an honor at that level. We've never had that happen before. When Ted Cruz came here, he rented the facility. It was a campaign stop. When Laura Kelly came here, I'm not sure. Did she rent? She rented the facility. Howard Schultz rented the facility. So it depends upon on how that all sets up. If it's related to a campaign, they will have to rent. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. And that concludes our report.
Thanks, Dr. Sopcich. I don't believe we have any old business tonight. I don't believe we have any new business tonight. And that takes us to Dr. Harvey, Faculty Association, Reports and Board Liaisons.
Hello. So I often feel like I should get up here and tell you all the great things our faculty are doing, but we've already heard so many great things that our faculty are doing tonight from several, we're here tonight, from Dr. Heather Seitz, and the two faculty got an award, and Dave Krug, and then, of course, Jay Antle is one of our faculty, and so I think you've already heard so many wonderful things our faculty do, but I did have a couple of things I wanted to share of an update from the Faculty Association. We have lots, I also want to say, we have lots of presentations that you're probably going to get invited to in the next month. Student presentations, the collab will no doubt be full daily of fantastic things that our students have been doing maybe all year or all semester. And so if you get a chance to see any of those, thank you for coming and seeing them, because our students, we want them to be supported, and we want you guys to see what they do. It's really exciting time of year. So I just thought I'd say that too. So we had the KNEA Representative Assembly. It's an annual event, and that was the first weekend in April. We sent 5 delegates this time. Actually, we had 6 faculty from Johnson County Community College, but one of our faculty is a representative. It has an office in the regional group of KNEA, so there's actually 5 technical delegates from here. And it's a great opportunity for us to connect with KNEA locals from all over the state. So a lot of them are K through 12, but not all. There are other community colleges that come and are represented. We're probably one of the more active ones, but we're not alone in that. And at this event, the Governor Laura Kelly came and sort of started it off, which was kind of exciting. And then she had saved signing the education funding bill for that day so that the K through 12 teachers could all go over and be there when she signed it. So that was also kind of an exciting moment, because I think they've been waiting for something like that for a long time. And so that was kind of exciting. We had some breakout sessions. There was 2 that several of us attended together on social and racial justice. And it was kind of good to see. It looks different, a little different in K through 12 than it does in higher ed, but it was good to have conversations and see some of the resources and discussions and opportunities that are being put together for those areas. There's a sort of a conference of sorts, or workshop that they held this last January, and they're going to be having one again in the fall. So it'll be a statewide event for educators to come and discuss issues related to social and racial justice. And as a teacher, what that looks like in a classroom and the training that you need to be able to, fully support your students, no matter what background they come from, it's really critical. And so, when I personally reflect on my own experience in that, I have to say that I don't often feel confident that I've had adequate training to really fully support my students and my colleagues that belong to underrepresented areas. Now, I've been somewhat underrepresented at times in my life in being a woman in science. I've worked in research groups that were all men. I was the only woman. I've experienced that small bit, but there's so many different types of diversity and just really fully understanding what we can do to help our students succeed and our colleagues succeed that belong to those groups is an important thing. And so I just wanted to take a minute and talk for a second about that. I'm sure that the college has done some things that I'm not aware of, particularly in response to the HLC report that noted that consistent support of clubs and organizations promoting diversity was an opportunity for improvement for our college. And then they also they inquired about diversity in hiring practices of staff and faculty, and noted there were not specific initiatives to promote diversity of employees and faculty, and that this was an area that we could focus on moving forward to help our faculty and staff better reflect the diversity of our student population, which we know is increasingly more and more diverse. And so there's a lot of different levels in here. There's supporting students, there's training our faculty and staff to better be able to support students at every level, everyone who is interacting with people. There's training people on hiring committees in a way that they're really thinking beyond their own internal biases that they don't even realize to help increase the diversity on our campus. And then this in turn will help our students. But then I also think we have to have more conversations about how we support our diverse employees, that we do hire more diversity. How do we support people who belong to an underrepresented group when they work here? And so I think there's definitely a lot of work that we can do, and I'm sure I know there's lots of different efforts that are being done, but having maybe more awareness of those in sort of a more coordinated and organized way would be one thing that would be helpful. I know that next week there's a couple of events, for example, that I saw. There are 3 transgender awareness talks that were organized by the Department of Sociology. And so again, there's these little kind of individually organized events, but sometimes it's hard to, maybe something's happening when you're in class, or sometimes it's hard to access all of them. But I did want to take a minute and also point out to you, in case you're not aware, that there has been some grassroots efforts from some of my colleagues. So the Faculty Senate formed a task force last September, and it was to look at diversity, equity, and inclusion, and specifically here at the college. And I would say that once that formed, it sort of took a life of its own, in the sense that they invited anybody and everybody that wanted to participate to be part of this. And so it was very inclusive in the organization of this group. And so I recognized early on that it was not particularly sanctioned by the administration as a committee. When you call it a task force, I just want faculty to realize whether the administration asked it to be formed, or whether it's being formed by employees that see a need that they want addressed. And so that is the case here. And But I have to tell you that they have put together, that currently they have a needs statement that they have published and shared, and they're requesting signatures and letters of support from others, and they're also holding a town hall meeting on May 1st at 11 o'clock in the CoLab to discuss this. And you know, I read their report, their document, and that they produced, and it was well-researched. You know, it looks at other KBOR institutions and community colleges in Kansas, as well as the League of Innovation Schools, and looks at, you know, do these other institutions have a designated resource person or place for sort of a clearinghouse for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And they did a lot of research, and that is really what they are asking for, is for a designated resource on our campus for that. So I think you're going to be hearing more about that, and I wanted to put that forward, that I do support that, that what that looks like. I think that we can be creative in solving an issue or a problem, but I do feel, as a faculty member too, that we have not made enough of an intentional effort to really, you know, in an organized way, address some of the issues. And with that comes, you know, training and information. And sometimes people will self-select into going to certain events, but they may not even be the people that most need to hear some of those things. So I would like to see our campus do more to foster an inclusive environment where it's a safe learning environment, a safe working environment, and supportive for everybody. So I just wanted to share that, and that concludes my report.
Any questions? Thank you, Dr. Harvey, appreciate it. Trustee Lawson.
I don't have a question, but more just a comment. I mean, I'm sit on the national committee for the colleges of trustees for diversity, equity, inclusion. And coming back in January, I mentioned to the board the importance of bringing in some of these policies specific around our diversity of our RFP language, so that small business owners have an opportunity to partake in these large contracts by breaking them up. The other one was the equity, was the anti-bullying policy that addressed power dynamics, which is different than conduct policies. And then the inclusion was for having a student trustee policy that could sit on our board, because we talk about students, but we really need to be talking with them and not at them. So I think these are things that I'm excited to hear the grassroots efforts coming up, because I think this is very important, especially having diversity in our hiring practices.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Cross, Johnson County Research Triangle.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Trustee. The JCERT has not met since we last spoke. We'll meet this Tuesday, actually, April 22nd at 7:30 a.m. at the KU Edwards campus. I have more to report next month for the first time as I serve as a liaison there, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. KCCT, Trustee Lawson.
They have not met, and I have not received a meeting of the next time.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Musil, Foundation.
Well, I think everybody's probably heard by now, Chris Gray and his marketing team have done a great job of getting the word out that Mr. Frank Devasel has been named as the Johnson County of the Year for 2019. Mr. Devasel retired from Olathe Health Systems as his CEO at the end of the year in 2018. After almost 50 years of service to Olathe Health System, basically built that hospital. I know Trustee Ingram was employed at the hospital and has served the hospital, and it's been an amazing, in the 32 years I've lived here, to watch that hospital system grow into Miami and Lynn County with clinics and elsewhere in Johnson County. As Johnson County of the Year, Mr. Devasel will be recognized at Some Enchanted Evening Scholarship Gala on November 9th. Mike and Susan Lally are serving as the co-chairs for that gala. Last year, it raised more than $800,000 for our student scholarships. So if anybody wants to help student scholarships, they should buy a table to this event where the proceeds go directly to scholarships. Sponsorship solicitations have begun under the leadership of Pam Popp, who chairs the sponsorship committee. The next item is that the Cohen Community Series will present Roots and Boots 90s Electric Throwdown on May 4th in Yardley Hall. This is The Cohen Community Series was inaugurated in 2008 by former trustee John Stewart as a legacy and in honor of the late Barton P. Cohen. All proceeds for the event go to Johnson County Community College scholarships and educational programs. The event this year features country legends Sammy Kershaw, Colin Ray, and Aaron Tippin. More than 800 tickets have already been sold. Aaron Tippin, who's most famous for his original hit, which was "You've got to stand for something or you'll fall for anything." I'm sure the chair remembers that. 1992.
I thought it was 1892, and I do remember it.
Finally, the Foundation Board will meet on Friday, April 26th, as part of the Foundation's annual luncheon, and the Fine Arts and Design Studios ribbon cutting and dedication ceremony. All trustees are invited. You should have already received your invitation. Please RSVP to the Foundation. It's 11:30 in the Arts Courtyard adjacent to the new FADS building. And that completes my report.
Thank you. Any questions of Trustee Musil?
Did they have football in 1892?
They did, and we didn't lose a game. Consent agenda is an item on the agenda where we deal with a number of routine items. Does anyone have an item they'd like to pull from the agenda? Anyone like to pull an item from the agenda? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. We have no executive session tonight that I'm aware of, and so I would ask for an adjournment of this meeting. A
Motion to
motion?
adjourn.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Yes.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.